Chapter 888. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. Shangguan Qing calmed down the excitement in his heart and returned to his old self, who didn't recognize anyone. Shangguan Qing was not much more familiar with Chu Yang than Xiao Heng, but his appetite was getting worse these days. In order to make him eat more, Gu Jiao asked Teacher Hu to search for delicious food in the streets and alleys for him. He roughly remembered a few shops. The coachman was a local. After they told him the name of the shop, the coachman took them there with ease. It was a noodle shop opened by the people of Zhao, but it claimed to have the flavor of the Six Kingdoms. Shangguan Qing ordered 2 bowls of Yongchun noodles, the specialty of the Zhao Kingdom. Xiao Hang looked at the noodles in the bowl, thinking that it was not exactly similar to Yongchun noodles. It had nothing to do with them. Xiao Heng tasted it. It was quite ordinary. Shang Guanqing, on the other hand, seemed to be eating with relish. He asked Xiao Heng, "How is it? Is it better than the ones in the Zhao Kingdom?" Xiao Heng glanced at him and said, "Jiao Jiao's cooking is better than this." Shangguan Qing said in surprise, "That girl can cook?" Xiao Heng's eyes flashed with gentleness. "Jiao Jiao's cooking is very good." Shangguan Qing curled his lips. "Humph, he came here to eat noodles, not to eat dog food." Chuyang City was gradually restoring order, but because of the war, the prices had risen. Yongchun noodles usually cost 6 knife coins, but now it cost 20 knife coins. This was a small increase. The price of the meat was even more outrageous. A small bowl of donkey meat was sold for 2 taels of silver. Shangguan Qing glanced at Xiao Heng, who was eating noodles silently. He rolled his eyes and ordered 2 bowls of the most expensive donkey meat and a jar of 30-year-old wine. "By the way, you didn't bring any money when you went out, did you?" he asked seriously. "No." Xiao Heng shook his head blankly. He really didn't bring any money. There were eunuchs on the way to take care of food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation. The banknotes were in the military camp's luggage. Shangguan Qing patted his chest and said, "It's okay. I brought it. I'm treating you to a meal as your brother. How can I let you pay for it? There's a good osmanthus cake shop over there. I'll buy it for you." Xiao Heng said hurriedly, "I'll go." Shangguan Qing smiled and said, "No need, no need. I'm the elder brother. I'll go." Xiao Heng thought for a moment. "Okay then." Shangguan Qing reminded him, "By the way, remember not to expose your identity as the eldest imperial grandson. There are assassins from the Jin state in the city. You will be in danger." Xiao Heng nodded obediently. "Oh, got it." Shangguan Qing left with a smile. As soon as he left the shop, he pulled over the shop assistant at the door and casually said, "The person who came with me just now, he's paying the bill." The 2 of them were good-looking, and their clothes were extraordinary. One look and one could tell that they were the young masters of a wealthy family. The shop assistant smiled politely and said, "Yes, sir." After Shangguan Qing walked to the opposite side, he turned around and sneered at Xiao Heng, who was eating noodles slowly in the shop. "Silly little brother. Just wait to be beaten up." Shangguan Qing really went to the shop that sold osmanthus cake. It was not for anything else, but because he could see the noodle shop directly across the street. He wanted to witness the dark history of the top scorer's little brother with his own eyes. He went up to the 2nd floor and asked for a first-class room. He also ordered a pot of the most expensive tea, crossed his legs, and watched the show leisurely. He should be beaten out soon, right? When should he make a move? Would it be too cruel when he was beaten until he cried for his father and mother? Shangguan Qing waited for a long time, but he did not see any movement at the door of the noodle shop. What's going on? Could it be that he was beaten to death inside? Oh, I forgot that the shop has a backyard. If they are attacking the boy in the backyard, it will be terrible. Shangguan Qing just wanted to teach Xiao Heng a lesson. He did not intend to kill Xiao Heng. He hurried downstairs, intending to throw the money bag directly to the shopkeeper and keep the change. But his hand touched nothing. He was stunned and lowered his head to look around. Where's my money bag? When the shopkeeper saw this, his face immediately darkened. Sir, did you lose your money bag? It was still with you when you showed up. I don't know how it disappeared. Shangguan Qing was puzzled. How do you know? The shopkeeper rolled up his sleeves. Haha. I've heard this kind of excuse many times. You look like a dog. You're actually a swindler. Don't you know who owns this shop? How dare you swindle in my shop? You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Guards! Arrest him for me. Drag him to the backyard. If he doesn't hand over the money, break one of his legs. Shangguan Qing said in disbelief, You're too black-hearted. Do you want to use a leg to pay for such a small amount of money? You have no respect for the law. The shopkeeper snorted coldly. Law? This is the law of our Ziyang city. There were many wars at the border. It seemed that the local laws had indeed changed. The shopkeeper said, Arrest him. Wait. Shangguan Qing stretched out his hand and made a stop gesture. I'm the eldest grandson of the emperor. The shopkeeper took out a portrait from the counter and opened it. Do you think I haven't seen the eldest grandson of the emperor? Boy. This is the eldest grandson of the emperor. Shangguan Qing looked at the man in the portrait who was so ugly that his facial features were disorderly. His body shook. Damn. Has the image of the eldest grandson of the emperor been ruined like this? Or is it that in this day and age, a mole with a tear mark is the eldest grandson of the emperor? Shangguan Qing said seriously, This is not the eldest grandson of the emperor. The shopkeeper said, How do you know he's not? Shangguan Qing said righteously, Because I am. I've been the eldest grandson of the great Yan dynasty for 20 years. I know better than you what the eldest grandson of the emperor looks like. The shopkeeper said, You don't have a tear mark on your face. You're not. He might not be the eldest grandson of the emperor with a tear mole, but he definitely wasn't without a tear mole. This was like a scholar meeting a soldier. He couldn't explain himself clearly. Shangguan Qing was fuming with anger. However, he couldn't really shoot them with a gun. After all, they were just doing business and didn't do anything bad. Just when Shangguan Qing was held down in embarrassment, Xiao Hang came over calmly. He looked at Shangguan Qing in the shop and a touch of surprise appeared on his face. Brother, you're really here? Shangguan Qing looked back. You, how did you come out? He wanted to say, How did you come out? But after thinking about it, he quickly changed the last word. He was so witty. Xiao Heng said, Oh, I finished my noodles, so I came to find you. Shangguan Qing opened his mouth. Then did you pay for the meal? Yes, the total is 53 taels. Brother, the wine is so expensive. Xiao Heng frowned. Shangguan Qing asked in a daze, You didn't bring any money with you? Xiao Heng opened his eyes wide and said, Brother, did you forget? You left your purse to me. Shangguan Qing. Xiao Heng. It's on your bench. F***CK. I left my purse on the bench just now. So that 53 taels of silver, was it his money that was spent? Shangguan Qing took a breath of cold air. Don't be angry, don't be angry. It's only 53 taels. Brother, here you are. Xiao Hang returned the purse to Shangguan Qing. Shangguan Qing once suspected that this guy did it on purpose, but looking at Xiao Heng's innocent eyes, he felt that he was thinking too much. He took out the banknotes and paid the bill. The shopkeeper smiled and respectfully sent the two of them away. Shangguan Qing held his breath in his heart, and the more he thought about it on the way back, the angrier he became. He wanted to see this guy embarrass himself, but how could he be laughed at by the other party? He had lived for 20 years, and he had never suffered such a setback. He had to get back at him. Stop the carriage, he ordered. The coachman stopped the carriage. Shangguan Qing got out of the carriage with Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng's eyes were filled with doubt as he asked, "Brother, where are we going?" The way he called him brother was really nice. Shangguan Qing's heart nearly softened. Fortunately, his heart was like steel, and he managed to stabilize himself in time. He said, "We are meeting for the first time, and I am your older brother. I should prepare a greeting gift for you. I did not prepare one ahead of time, so I will buy one for you now." Xiao Heng slightly shook his head. "No need, brother. I did not prepare one for you." Shangguan Qing heroically waved his hand and said, "That's different. I am your older brother. I must give you a greeting gift. If you continue to be so courteous with me, I will get angry." Xiao Hang hesitated for a moment and said with difficulty, "Since brother has said it like this, then Ahang will respectfully accept." Shangguan Qing hugged his shoulder and patted him, saying with a smile, "That's more like it." Shangguan Qing brought Xiao Hang to an antique shop. In these troubled times, the nearby antique shops had closed one after another. This was the only one that was still open. Xiao Hang tugged at his sleeve and quietly said, "Brother, the things here are too expensive. Let's go somewhere else." Zhao Du's young marquis, his mother was a princess, and his father was a marquis. He actually felt that a few antiques were expensive? Ah, right. This younger brother had wandered among the commoners for a few years and lived a hard life. Shangguan Qing's heart nearly softened, but fortunately, he was skilled. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I have saved up quite a bit of private money over the past few years. Pick whatever you like. There is no need to be courteous with brother." This time, Shangguan Qing learned to be obedient. He repeatedly checked that the money bag did not fall out. In truth, even if it fell out, there was no harm. The banknotes in the money bag were not enough to buy an antique. "You look around first. I will go to the outhouse." "Okay." Xiao Hang remained on the second floor to look at the antiques. Shangguan Qing went downstairs and picked up a few antiques in the main hall. "Upstairs, my younger brother will pay the bill." This trick might not have worked if it was used by others, but the two of them looked like young masters of aristocratic families. Nobody suspected that Shangguan Qing was a swindler. Shangguan Qing took the antiques and ran. "Stinky brat, let's see how you escape this time." Shangguan Qing looked up to the sky and laughed. "Ha ha." He carried a bag of antiques back to the carriage. As soon as he opened the curtain, he was so scared that he almost fell down. Why are you here?" Xiao Hang smiled slightly. "I finished buying, so I got on the carriage and waited for my brother." Shangguan Qing was even more surprised. "You finished buying?" He looked at the big boxes of antiques in the carriage in shock. You bought all of them?" Xiao Hang said innocently, "My brother just picked these out for me and asked me to accept them." I did say that, but how did you pay the bill?" Shangguan Qing touched the money bag. It was still there. Xiao Hang said with a smile, "I said my brother was the eldest grandson of the emperor, and the shopkeeper said it didn't matter. He would go to the Castellan mansion to collect the bill from my brother later. Why did no one believe me when I said I was the eldest grandson of the emperor, but he believed me when I said I was the eldest grandson of the emperor? So many antiques. How much money would it cost? Your brother has saved money for more than 10 years. The little person in Shangguan Qing's heart knelt down on the ground and cried out loud, "The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet." For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826790. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile version reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 889. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Xiaoheng looked at him and asked in confusion, "Brother, why aren't you saying anything? Did Aheng do something wrong? Then Aheng doesn't want these things." What kind of joke was this? Things that had been given out were things that could not be taken back. Could it be taken back? Where would he, the dignified Ghost King, put his face? Shangguan Qing swallowed his broken teeth, feeling extremely aggrieved. On the way back, he did not want to say a single word to Xiaoheng. When they passed by a shop that sold dried meat, the carriage stopped. Shangguan Qing unhappily asked, "What are you doing?" Xiaoheng said, "When I entered the city this morning, I bought dried meat from this shop. At that time, it was not done roasting, so they told me to come back in 2 hours. It should be done now." Shangguan Qing raised an eyebrow. "How did you know that I like to eat dried meat?" Xiaoheng was stunned. I don't know. I bought it for Jiao Jiao." Caught off guard, he was stuffed with dog food once more. Shangguan Qing's face was dark, as he decided to ignore this younger brother for the rest of his life. Xiaoheng went to the shop to get dried meat, but he still had to wait a little longer. The inside of the carriage was very stuffy, and Shangguan Qing decided to get out of the carriage to get some fresh air. He stood in front of the shop for a while. The fragrance of the dried meat was very enticing, but he did not have much of an appetite these days. From time to time, there would be customers passing by, and he would slightly move to the side to let them pass. In the end, he had no choice but to enter the shop. This shop sold dried meat and other pastries. Customers could bring them out or eat inside. At this time, there were many people, and the lobby was crowded. Xiaoheng did not like lively scenes and went to the backyard to wait alone. Shangguan Qing indifferently looked at the noble and self-restrained Xiaoheng. The evil thoughts that he had suppressed once again emerged. He arrived behind Xiaoheng without leaving a trace. When Xiaoheng turned around to get dried meat, he stretched out his foot to trip him. The courtyard was covered with a thick layer of snow. Even if he fell, it wouldn't hurt. At most, it would just embarrass Xiaoheng. And Xiaoheng really didn't know that Shangguan Qing had come to play tricks. This move was supposed to succeed, but Shangguan Qing's stride was too big and he lost his balance. He slipped and fell forward. "Aya!" he cried out in surprise. Xiaoheng turned around and almost instinctively reached out to grab Shangguan Qing. The inertia was too great, and the two brothers fell into the snow together. Coincidentally, at this time, the brothel madam across the street came in from the back door to buy dried meat. As soon as she entered the backyard, 2 young men fell under her skirt. The procuress. Shangguan Qing. Xiaoheng. The brothel keeper was startled at first, but then she was so excited that her whole body trembled, and the makeup on her face fell. She put one hand on her fat waist and pointed at the two with a handkerchief in her other hand. She gritted her teeth and said, "Where did these brats come from? How dare you take advantage of me in broad daylight? You're indecent. See how I'll deal with you." As she spoke, she bent down and was about to pull the 2 brothers' ears. The 2 brothers exchanged a look. "Shangguan Qing, run." The 2 brothers quickly stood up from the snow. Shangguan Qing grabbed Xiaoheng's wrist and rushed out from the back door in one breath. "You took advantage of me and then ran? Stop right there. I told you to stop. Do you hear me? Someone is coming. Capture those 2 brats for me." The 2 brothers' scalps tingled, and they ran forward as fast as they could. "Over there, over there." Xiaoheng pointed to the alley on the right. "No, left. I'm the older brother. Listen to me." Shangguan Qing decisively pulled his brother into the alley on the left. It turned out that Shangguan Qing didn't lead them the wrong way. The 2 of them didn't know how long they ran. After making sure that the people of Spring Flower House didn't chase after them, they held the fence on the side and gasped for breath. This used to be a workshop for dyeing cloth. After the war, the people in the workshop left, and the things inside were also emptied, leaving only an empty yard. Shangguan Qing had no strength left, and he directly lay down in the snow. Xiao Heng glanced at him and lay down beside him. "How do you know to go left?" he asked. "Have you been here before?" "I haven't. It's just intuition," Shangguan Qing said. Xiao Heng pondered for a moment and felt that it shouldn't be intuition, but experience. Shangguan Qing wasn't a child who grew up in a house. He didn't like to study, but it didn't mean that he wasn't knowledgeable enough. Wasn't there a saying that reading 10,000 books was better than traveling 10,000 miles? It couldn't be more appropriate to describe Shangguan Qing. Which brother flirted with the brothel's auntie on the first day they met? Shangguan Qing habitually wanted to say girl, but when he thought of the brothel keeper's appearance, he decisively changed his words. Xiao Heng couldn't help laughing when he heard what he said. Yes, which brother was like the two of them? They fought all kinds of tricks when they met, and in the end, both of them were cheated. Shangguan Qing looked at the blue sky and white clouds and said, "Hey, shouldn't scholars be honest? Or is it that being the top scholar is different from being an ordinary scholar?" "What?" Xiao Heng didn't understand for a moment. He also looked at the sky and felt very strange. Shangguan Qing said carelessly, "You took my money pouch, didn't you? And those antiques, you did it on purpose, didn't you?" Without giving Xiao Heng a chance to quibble, he snorted and said, "I thought you were really a bookworm." Who would have thought that he was a thick-skinned little glutinous rice ball filled with black sesame? After being exposed, Xiao Heng didn't feel embarrassed at all. This was not in line with his character. He could be thick-skinned in front of outsiders, but he was not so thick-skinned in front of his own people. So, why did he get along with Shangguan Qing so naturally? Was it because he was his brother? He could let himself go and be himself with peace of mind, because he knew him as well as he knew him. They were like each other's other selves in the world. Xiao Heng put his right arm behind his head and said lightly, "My skills are not as profound as yours." He was thick-skinned. "I'm your brother. Of course I'm better than you." Although he said that, it was just now that he really came to his senses. The moment he laid down on the snowy ground, the thoughts in his mind suddenly opened up. He didn't need any evidence. It was more like a kind of brotherly connection. He suddenly understood that this guy was teasing him. He said lightly, "Hey, top scholar, recite a poem for me." Since the window paper had been opened, Xiao Heng no longer pretended to be an obedient younger brother. He refused very coldly, "No. You've shown your true colors, haven't you?" Shangguan Qing turned his head and glared at Xiao Heng coldly. He said sarcastically, "You're the younger brother. How dare you disobey your brother? Can't you have some self-awareness as a younger brother?" "If you want to recite it, do it yourself," Xiao Heng said lightly. He turned over in the snow and showed his back to Shangguan Qing. Shangguan Qing was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The little person in his heart jumped up. He picked up his stinky younger brother and beat him into the snow so hard that he couldn't be dug out. "Humph!" Shangguan Qing snorted. He didn't turn over, but he closed his eyes coldly. Xiao Heng opened his eyes and felt the heat on his body dissipate little by little. He also quietly looked at the scenery in the distance. The wind had stopped, and there were more pedestrians on the street. Occasionally, passers-by noticed them and looked at them as if they were fools. They hurriedly passed by. The two brothers' meeting was very sudden. Neither of them was mentally prepared. Maybe Shangguan Qing was a little bit, but only a little bit. From the moment they met until now, there were some topics that they had avoided mentioning. For example, should I give you back the identity of the eldest grandson of the emperor? For example, if I took the antidote that belonged to you, would you be angry? In fact, whether it was the young Duke of Zhaodu or the eldest grandson of the great Yan Emperor, both of their lives were not smooth sailing. It was hard to say who had suffered more. Xiao Heng didn't die, but the young Duke of Zhaodu died once. Shangguan Qing was still alive, but his life was coming to an end. A gust of cold wind blew, and Xiao Heng's body was cold. "It's time to get up," he said. "Don't lie down. You'll catch a cold." He sat up. Shangguan Qing behind him didn't respond. He looked at Shangguan Qing strangely. Shangguan Qing's face was pale, and his lips were bloodless. When he saw him in the camp in the morning, his face was not as ruddy as normal people, but he was not as weak as he was now. Shangguan Qing, what's wrong with you? Xiao Heng raised his hand and touched his forehead. It was not hot, but his breath was very weak. Xiao Heng patted his shoulder gently. Shangguan Qing, Shangguan Qing, Shangguan Qing. Xiao Heng was not a doctor who had been ill for a long time, but he could still tell if a person was really weak. No wonder he hadn't moved since he lay down. It wasn't that he was too lazy to move, but that he couldn't move at all. Wake up. Didn't you want to hear me recite a poem? I'll recite it to you. Snow on the mountain in May, no flowers, only cold. Hearing the plucked willow in the flute, spring has not seen. Battle at dawn with the golden drum, sleep at night with the jade saddle. Willing to slay Lulon with the sword at my waist. It's unpleasant to hear. Shangguan Qing slowly opened his heavy eyelids and glanced weakly at Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng corrected him. This poem is not unpleasant to hear. It's your voice. Shangguan Qing rolled his eyes and said, How old are you? Xiao Heng's throat was a bit swollen and painful. His voice unconsciously carried a trace of choking that even he didn't notice. Xiao Heng let out a long breath. With just a little effort, his back was already drenched in sweat. You don't even call me brother, Shangguan Qing complained. Xiao Heng laughed. Can you beat me in a fight or a test? Why should I call you brother? Shangguan Qing grabbed the gun in the snow. I'll shoot you, brother. A wise man submits to circumstances. Shangguan Qing snorted with satisfaction. The wind became stronger. Xiao Heng stretched out his hand. I'll help you up. Shangguan Qing suddenly said, I can't wait for the antidote. Xiao Heng's hand paused. He took a deep breath and said slowly, No, father will definitely bring the antidote back. Shangguan Qing didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the distant sky and said, Is she well? He didn't say which she he was referring to. It could even be he. But Xiao Heng only froze for a moment before he understood who he was referring to. Without waiting for Xiao Heng to answer, Shangguan Qing said in a low voice, Take me to see her. I want to see her one more time before I leave. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1052386878. HTML Genius remembers the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 890. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. In November at the border, the wind was bitterly cold. At night, Shangguan Yan came from Pu City and went to the military camp first. She only heard that the eldest imperial grandson had come when she entered the city. With her understanding of her 2 sons, one was looking for a wife, and the other was looking for a younger brother. At the moment, most of them were in the military camp. Sure enough, she saw Gu Jiao and the 2 brothers in Marquis Xian Ping's tent. Shangguan Qing had already fallen asleep, and Gu Jiao was giving him an infusion. His appetite was not good these days, so Gu Jiao would give him a supplement from time to time. But tonight, the atmosphere in the tent seemed to be particularly dignified. Shangguan Yan's face changed. What's wrong? Did something happen? Is Qing not well? Shangguan Qing's situation was not good. He had been relying on the medicine of the state preceptor hall to suppress the poison, making him look no different from a normal person. In fact, his body had long been exhausted. Yi Qing said that he would not suffer too much, but he would become more and more sleepy. Maybe one day he would fall asleep and never wake up again. Xiao Hang told Shangguan Qing's idea to Shangguan Yen. Shangguan Yen fell on the chair in a daze. He really decided to do this? Go to Zhao country. It meant that he had completely given up on the antidote. The journey to Zhao country was long, and no one could guarantee that he would not die of poison on the way. If he was poisoned, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? Thinking that her son would die alone on the way back to Zhao country, Shangguan Yan's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She did not want to not see her son for the last time. I don't want to. At this moment, she was not the iron-blood loyal crown princess, she was just an ordinary mother. But at the same time, she also understood that she did not have the right to stop Shangguan Qing from seeing Princess Xanyang. The Marquis, Chong Jing, and Yi Qing are going north. I asked around, Dark Knight Island is in that direction. If the journey was easy, they would have brought Shangguan Qing. If you didn't bring it, it means that this trip is a narrow escape. The extreme north had extremely bad weather. Snowstorms wreaked havoc on the ice plains, and along with the arrival of winter, even experts would not be able to pass through. Perhaps it was because Shangguan Qing understood this that he decided to give up waiting for purple grass. He wanted to use the last moments of his life to return to his country and take a look at his home. She wanted to meet her mother. Shangguan Yen choked with sobs. When I took him away that year, I didn't ask him if he agreed or not. Now, he had grown up. He couldn't decide his own birth, and he couldn't even choose his own life, but he hoped to be able to choose his own way of leaving. Life or death, it was up to him to choose. Even if he consumed the purple grass, there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance of survival. If he failed, he would not be able to return alive. It was up to him to decide whether he should take this gamble or risk his life to see his mother. Inside the tent, Shangguan Yen grabbed her son's hand and cried all night. This year's winter in Zhao country was especially cold. At the end of October, the capital had its first snowfall. In November, it snowed for half a month. After entering the 12th month, it was sunny for a few days. In a house on Vermilion Bird Avenue, Princess Xingyang sat quietly in front of the bed embroidering. In the past, there was only brush, ink, paper, and inkstone on her table. She didn't know when, but it had all been replaced with a variety of fabrics. She felt that the room was stuffy, so she called Yujin to open the window. A servant girl came in. The servant girl smiled and said, "Aunt Yujin went out. Princess, do you have any orders?" "Open the window," Princess Xingyang said. "But it's very cold outside." The servant girl was worried about her body. Princess Xingyang said lightly, "I'm hot." "Then, just open it for a little while," the servant girl said. "And?" Princess Xingyang nodded. The servant girl went around the table and opened the window with a pole. The cold wind blew in with flying snow. Princess Xingyang felt a burst of coolness, and even her dizzy head cleared up a lot. The young maidservant shuddered. "So cold. It's snowing again." Princess Xingyang embroidered for a while in the cold wind. The servant girl didn't dare to let her stay in the cold for too long, so she took the risk of being kicked out and closed the window. Aunt Yujin said that you can't stand in the cold wind, can't eat cold food, can't. The servant girl lowered her head and said without confidence, "Enough, I didn't say I was going to punish you." Princess Xingyang didn't plan to argue with the servant girl, but she had been sitting in the room for 2 hours, so she really couldn't sit still. "Give me the cloak. I'll go out for a walk," she said. "Ah, yes." The servant girl took the cloak, trembling with fear, and put it on Princess Xingyang. Princess Xingyang stood up and walked out of the room with swollen legs to the corridor. The snow in the courtyard had been swept clean, and the ground was covered with a non-slip straw mat. The servant girl held an umbrella for her. "Let's go to the flower room," Princess Xingyang said. "Yes." The servant girl complied and carefully supported her. The master and servant went to the flower room. This residence was originally quite big, but Princess Xinyang liked to raise flowers, so she used half of the residence as a flower room. Charcoal was burning in the flower room, so the temperature was very high. The servant girl understood that her princess wasn't going to admire the flowers. She wanted to see if the old clothes had dried. When the two arrived at the door of the flower room, they heard whispers coming from inside. What do you think the princess is thinking? Why would she dig out the old clothes from so many years ago? She even wants us to wash and dry them. Be quiet, don't let people hear. If they hear, then they hear. Do you think I'm the only one saying this? Everyone's secretly spreading it. Spreading what? The princess actually has 2 sons. What? Half of these children's clothes are the young duke's, and the other half is the young master's. It's a pity that the child's fate wasn't good, and he died before he was even a month old. Say, it's fine if we wash the young duke's clothes, but why do we wash the child's? Washing the clothes of a dead person during the new year. How unlucky. The news that the young Duke of Zhaodu had returned alive had already spread throughout the capital. As for Xiao Qing's identity, although it hadn't spread outside, the servants who had come in behind closed doors had more or less heard some things while she and Yujin were tidying up the clothes. The servant girl didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She turned her head to look at Princess Xinyang. As expected, the princess's face was ice cold. The 2 servant girls felt the cold gaze behind them and turned their heads back in a daze. When they saw Princess Xinyang, the 2 were so frightened that they fell to their knees with a plop. Princess Xinyang quickly walked over. The servant girl was frightened. Princess, slow down. Princess Xinyang came in front of the 2 and sternly shouted, "Get up! You've dirted my son's clothes." The servant girl who had spoken rudely just now happened to be holding a small piece of clothing that Xiao Qing had worn when he was born. The servant girl trembled as she handed the dirty clothes to Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang looked at her son's dirty clothes and didn't know why, but a wave of sadness came from her heart. Princess. Yujin had returned from shopping. She heard that Princess Xinyang had gone to the flower room and hurried over to take a look. She didn't expect to see this scene. She didn't immediately ask the 2 servant girls what they had done. Instead, she directly ordered the servant girl, "Take them away first. I'll deal with them later." Yes. The servant girl put away the umbrella in her hand and handed it to Yujin. Yujin took the oil paper umbrella and said softly to Princess Xinyang, who was on the verge of collapse, "Princess, Jing Kong has come to see you." Little Jing Kong often came to visit Princess Xinyang after returning to the capital. Yujin had just run into him at the door. Princess Xinyang liked Jing Kong very much. When she heard that he had come, she pulled herself out of her extreme emotions and personally took the dirty clothes back to her room. Little Jing Kong had been studying at the Imperial College for a month and had returned to his previous appearance. After this New Year's Eve, he would be 6 years old. However, he still looked like a 5-year-old. He was really worried. Princess Xinyang had someone cook a bowl of goat's milk for him. She added honey and red beans and it was very delicious. Little Jing Kong gorged himself and drank the milk. He sat on a stool and chatted with Princess Xinyang. "Princess, you look good today. You're getting more and more beautiful." Princess Xinyang was amused by him. "Really? Of course, and..." Little Jing Kong looked Princess Xinyang up and down. He opened his mouth and said, "You've also become more adorable." Princess Xinyang exposed him. "You obviously didn't intend to say that." "Ah." Little Jing Kong raised his 2 small hands and scratched his little head. "You also saw through that." "Fine, Jiao Jiao told me to say that." "Is Jiao Jiao back?" Princess Xinyang asked. Little Jing Kong shook his head and said seriously, "No, Jiao Jiao said that before. Jiao Jiao said that you can't say that girls are fat. When girls are fat, they're so cute that they become inflated." Pfft. Yujin couldn't help but laugh. If he wanted to say that the princess was fat, then just say it. However, the princess wasn't fat. "What did you learn at the Imperial College today?" Princess Xinyang didn't continue the topic and changed the topic to his homework. Today, I learned the classic of filial piety. Little Jing Kong recited the entire content of the lesson and explained it in his own words. Princess Xinyang nodded. Everything was correct. She touched his little head. You're such a smart child. Little Jing Kong rolled his eyes. Then, am I smart or is my brother-in-law smart? Princess Xinyang was amused by him. Both of you are smart. Little Jing Kong furrowed his brows bitterly. Why was his bad brother-in-law and he both smart? His bad brother-in-law always got the last place. In fact, he asked this question because he subconsciously admitted that his bad brother-in-law was very smart. It was just that he didn't realize it. He straightened his little body and said, I'll be the top scorer earlier than my brother-in-law. Little Jing Kong didn't know that he was indeed the top scorer earlier than his bad brother-in-law, but he wasn't the top scorer in literature. Jing Kong. It's time to go archery. Su Konji's voice came from outside the door. Oh. I forgot to make an appointment with them to go archery. Little Jing Kong jumped down from the stool and politely bowed to Princess Xinyang. Princess, I'll be leaving first. I'll come to see you another day. Okay. Princess Xinyang nodded with a gentle gaze and had Eugene send little Jing Kong to the carriage. When Eugene returned, Princess Xinyang was tidying up the small clothes that had been dirted by the maidservant. Jing Kong and Aheng are so alike when they were young. So when she saw Jing Kong, it was like seeing Aheng when she was young. Princess Xinyang missed it very much. Eugene smiled. Isn't that so? They're both smart, both like to get first place, and both are naughty. When Xiao Hang was young, he wasn't as obedient as he looked. If she didn't let him climb trees, he would climb them secretly. If she didn't let him eat candy, he would go into the kitchen with Long Yi. Occasionally, Princess Xinyang would get angry and beat him. He even knew to call Long Yi to take him away and wait for her anger to subside before returning. Thinking of Xiao Heng's childhood, Princess Xinyang felt it was funny at first. After laughing for a while, her expression became a bit sorrowful. She lowered her head and stroked the small clothes in her hand. She calmly said, Say, if Qing'er was still alive, what would he be like? Would he be as naughty as Aheng? Would he be as smart as Aheng? Was she like Aheng, with so many wicked ideas that she could not hold them all? Would he be like a scholar? Or would he practice martial arts? Would he like to travel all over the place, or would he like to stay at her side? Eugene worriedly looked at her. Princess Xinyang shook her head and endured the pain of losing her son. I'm fine. It's just that I've been thinking of that child recently. Eugene looked at the small clothes in her hand. Seeing an object makes you think of the person. Princess, I'll take the little prince's clothes and put them away. Princess Xinyang did not speak. She looked at the table and said, Little Jing Kong's books were left here. In a moment, find someone to send them to Bai Shui Alley. Okay. Eugene complied. A light knock came from outside the door. I'll go open the door, Eugene said. She went to the door and forcefully pulled it open. Eugene saw a familiar figure. His face was exquisite, and he was as elegant as jade. He had lost some of his youthful youth. Instead, he had gained some maturity, stability, and self-restraint. Eugene was extremely shocked. Young Marquis, Princess. Young Marquis has returned. Aheng. Princess Xinyang rejoiced. Not bothering to put on her cloak, she quickly walked out of the room. In the snow-filled sky, she saw the sun that she thought of every day. Xiao Heng's body was covered in snow. It could be seen that he had been standing at the door for a while. He stepped over the threshold but did not immediately reunite with Princess Xinyang. Instead, he turned around and looked behind him. Come in, brother. Digression. For those little cuties who do not want to keep their monthly votes until the end of the month, they can also vote now. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1052370028. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 891. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Half an hour ago, a carriage covered in snow stopped in front of the city gate. Shangguan Qing opened the curtain and poked his head out. He looked at the towering city tower and asked in surprise, "Is the capital in front?" "Yes." Xiao Heng nodded and opened the curtain a little. He looked at the endless crowd and said, "There are many people coming in and out of the capital in December. It's not so crowded on weekdays." "It's not bad," Shangguan Qing said. The Zhao Kingdom was a lower country. Although it was not as rich as the Yan Kingdom, the court was stable and the people lived and worked in peace. There were many praises for the court and the emperor. The emperor of the Yan Kingdom was a tyrant. Most of the people's opinions about him were negative. However, he was so powerful that no one dared to resist his tyranny. Xiao Heng smiled. The Zhao Kingdom was not strong enough now, but he believed that one day, the Zhao Kingdom would become a higher country. It required the efforts of many people, or even the efforts of several generations. But as long as they did not give up, there would be hope. "Do you want to rest for a while?" Xiao Heng asked Shangguan Qing. When Xiao Heng and Gu Zhao went from the Zhao Kingdom to the Yan Kingdom, they took the land route. There were many checkpoints and detours. Because they did not have the privilege of the royal family, many official roads could not be taken. The process was greatly delayed and it took nearly 2 months to reach Chengdu. This time, they used the identity of the eldest imperial grandson to take the official road dedicated to the court and change to the water route in the second half of the journey. They were lucky. The water began to freeze when they reached the shore. From early November to early December, they walked for a whole month. "No, I'm not tired," Shangguan Qing said. He was lying. Even Xiao Heng was tired, let alone a sick person like him. But the two brothers knew that Shangguan Qing did not have much time left. It was a miracle that he could hold on until now. Every step he took was like stepping on the roof of the King of Hell's palace. He did not know when he would fall. The carriage entered the city. Although Shangguan Qing was tired, he did not let go of the opportunity to appreciate the capital. "There are so many Tonghulu sellers," he exclaimed. There were very few of them in the Yan Kingdom. It was also very difficult to see a Tonghulu vendor on the street, but there were actually quite a few shops that specialized in selling Tonghulu. Xiao Heng asked the coachman to stop the carriage in front of a Tonghulu store and bought a bunch of each flavor. "Here." He handed a handful of candied haws to Shangguan Qing. Candied haws are from Zhao Kingdom. Shangguan Qing picked a big and red one. Yan Kingdom didn't have it before. "So you like to eat candied haws because you miss your hometown?" Xiao Heng watched him eat in silence. Shangguan Qing actually didn't have much of an appetite, so he played with it a few times. "Why don't?" He paused and said, "I'll go later?" "What's wrong?" Xiao Heng asked. Shangguan Qing looked at the candied haws in his hand and stammered, that." Xiao Heng laughed and asked, "Are you nervous?" "No." Shangguan Qing denied flatly. Xiao Heng smiled and said, "Don't worry. Mom will be very happy to see you." Shang Guanqing said in a low voice, "I'm not doing that. I don't know how to do that." The last 2 words of each of his sentences were vague and unclear. Xiao Heng could only make out the intonation, but Xiao Heng could still make out the 4 words through the telepathy between them. I'm not the top scorer. I don't know how to study. Such a proud and arrogant brother actually had times when he was not confident. Sure enough, it was true that when you cared too much about someone's opinion, you would become worried about personal gains and losses. Xiaoheng smiled and said, "Mother will like you." Shangguan Qing curled his lips. "Look at you. I know what kind of son she likes." Xiaoheng raised his eyebrows. "Is that why you secretly memorized poems?" Shangguan Qing's tiger-like body trembled, and his hair stood on end. "When did I recite a poem?" Xiaoheng burst into laughter. The two of them were really brothers. One of them exercised and strengthened his body behind his wife's back, while the other secretly memorized poems. Stupid sons had to meet their mothers eventually. The carriage arrived at Vermilion Bird Avenue near dusk. Shang Guanqing hesitated and refused to get off the carriage. When he finally got off the carriage, he leaned against the wall and stood in the alley, refusing to go over. Xiaoheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't he quite thick-skinned? Why was he more shy than he was about meeting his mother? The two brothers stood in the alley diagonally opposite for a long time. Xiaoheng saw little Jing Kong leave, so Shang Guanqing slowly followed Xiaoheng. That was how the snowflakes on their shoulders came about. At first, Princess Xinyang didn't realize who she was calling, but when Shang Guanqing, who was wearing a white cloak and holding a stick of candied haws, crossed the threshold, Princess Xinyang suddenly stopped in her tracks. The wind around them seemed to have suddenly stopped, and the snowflakes fell in large patches. The whole courtyard was extremely quiet. Her gaze fell on the handsome face that was somewhat similar to Xiaoheng's. Her breathing stopped, and her heart skipped a beat. Calling him brother didn't prove anything. It wasn't like Xiaoheng didn't have a brother. But her heart suddenly began to ache. It hurt so much. Why did her heart hurt so much when she looked at this person? Her eyes couldn't help but heat up, and her throat swelled painfully. "Mother, brother is back," Xiaoheng said. Then, in the next second, he also froze. His gaze slid from Princess Xinyang's beautiful face to her bulging belly. Wait. He had only been gone for 9 months. What was going on? Shang Guanqing had long been so nervous that he was stunned. His brain was buzzing, and he couldn't think at all. Xiaoheng guessed right. When it came to meeting his mother, Shang Guanqing was definitely more nervous than Xiaoheng. All the face that he had given up all these years was now used up on Princess Xinyang. So shy. What should I do? Shang Guanqing belatedly realized that he was still holding a candied hawthorn in his hand. He blamed himself for being so nervous that he even forgot to put such a childish thing back in the carriage. What should he do? His mature and aloof image. Eugen was also extremely agitated. Who was this brother that the young duke had brought back? Judging from his age, he was about the same age as the young duke. Could it be? No way, right? Wasn't young Master Xiao Qing already dead? Princess. She looked at Princess Xinyang in disbelief. Princess Xinyang was already a bit out of breath. Pregnancy had changed her body. Under the influence of hormones, tears came at will. She wasn't at all like her former aloof self. Xiaoheng pulled his stunned brother to Princess Xinyang and said softly, "Mother, let's talk inside." The mother and son trio entered the room. Eugen was also waiting on the side. Xiaoheng sat in the middle. Princess Xinyang and Shang Guanqing faced each other. Princess Xinyang looked at the child and couldn't stop her hot tears. Shang Guanqing wasn't sad at first, but when he saw her tears, he suddenly felt distressed. The two people's emotions fluctuated too much. Only Xiaoheng could explain what had happened. Xiaoheng started with Shangguan Yan's identity. The female slave of the Yen Kingdom was actually the crown princess of the Yen Kingdom. She was framed and sold to the underground martial arts arena. She was rescued by Marquis Xianping. Princess Xinyang knew what happened after that. But what Princess Xinyang didn't know was that the crown princess of the Yen Kingdom didn't kill Shang Guanqing. She just hid him. When she left, she secretly took Shang Guanqing with her. Shang Guanqing was poisoned. The Chen Kingdom's medical skills were brilliant. She first went to the Chen kingdom to ask for medicine. The Chen kingdom's doctor saved Shang Guanqing's life. Unfortunately, the effect was minimal. In order to keep Shang Guanqing alive, she had to take him back to the dragon's pool and tiger's den. After that, there was a series of upheavals in the Shenyuan family. Shang Guanyen was deposed from her position as the crown princess, but the emperor doted on Shang Guanqing very much. He still kept his status as the emperor's eldest grandson and let the state preceptor hall continue to provide treatment for him. However, as Shang Guanqing slowly grew up, his facial features gradually grew, and he became less and less like Shang Guanyen. Many people began to criticize Shang Guanyen, using Shang Guanqing's identity as an issue. They wrote memorials to impeach her for mixing up the royal bloodline. In desperation, Shang Guanyen had to secretly send people to the Zhao country to secretly draw a portrait of Xiao Hang and let Shang Guanqing disguise himself as Xiao Hang. And it was this move that exposed the existence of Xiao Hang to the crown prince's party. In order to save Xinyong's flesh and blood, Shang Guanyen exposed her own flesh and blood. Shang Guanyan's action of snatching the antidote that belonged to Shang Guanqing was hateful. But her heart to use the rest of her life to make up for it was not fake. Over the years, she treated Shang Guanqing as her own son, not only to make up for it. The mother-son relationship between them was real. Of course, Xiao Hang did not add his own opinion when he narrated the story. He only objectively stated all the facts. No one could forgive Shang Guanyen for Princess Xianyang, and no one could bear the pain of losing a son for her. Whether it was hatred, forgiveness, or something else, Princess Xianyang should have her own opinion. Shang Guanqing nervously looked at Princess Xianyang, as if waiting for her judgment. Hearing this, Princess Xianyang's mood calmed down. She looked at Shang Guanqing and bitterly said, "Actually, at that time, even if she did not snatch the antidote, you would not have survived. The previous emperor was on guard against your father. Marrying him was just a political bargaining chip. My dragon shadow guards were waiting to kill him at any time, and in order to prevent me from being soft-hearted, the dragon shadow guards would kill our child. If they did not succeed the first time, they would come a second time, until I completely lost you. I have also hurt A Hing deeply. Both of you are innocent. If I really want to blame someone, the first person I should blame is my father emperor. Second, blame me for being born into the imperial family. Finally, blame me as your mother, for not protecting you well. Not you but you too." Towards her two sons, she was filled with a deep sense of guilt. After she learned the false truth that Shang Guanyen was the one who killed her son, did she not vent her anger on the innocent Xiao Hang? What right did she have to blame Shang Guanyen? Xiao Hang gently held her hand. The matter of the young duke dying in the fire on New Year's Eve had already passed. The knot in his heart had been untied. He was not a child abandoned by his mother. At the last moment, his mother used her life to protect him. Princess Xianyang choked with sobs and laughed. "I am very grateful to her for raising you. If it were not for her, I might have already lost you." Shang Guanqing's entire body relaxed a lot. He smiled and said, "Lady Mother also said that she was very grateful to you for raising little brother. Because if the real imperial grandson returned to Yen country, it would be very difficult for him to grow up safely. Fate was a very mysterious thing, but doing good deeds was not good for the future." "Lady Mother?" Princess Xianyang was slightly stunned. Shang Guanqing awkwardly rubbed his nose. "That is my mother." Princess Xianyang appreciated this form of address. She could feel that Shang Guanyen and Qing Er's mother and son relationship was very harmonious and natural. Xiao Hang said, "Since it's like this, let's not talk about the past." Princess Xianyang nodded. Shang Guanqing also did not object. Princess Xianyang looked at her lost and recovered son. She could not believe it was true. "A Hang pinched me." Xiao Hing found it funny and said, "It would be better if you pinched me. How could I bear to let you feel pain?" Then Princess Xianyang really went to pinch him. Xiao Heng's pain made an emoji appear. "Mother, you've changed. You were not able to do it before. Sure enough, I've fallen out of favor. Princess Shenyang awkwardly rubbed her son's red leg. Qing-er's return was too unbelievable. She was immersed in great joy and was truly at a loss for what to do. Shang Guanqing looked on dumbfoundedly. He felt that Princess Xianyang did not seem so difficult to get close to. It's all because of his stinky younger brother. He always said that his mother was as cold as a fairy and did not eat the food of mortals. He was very worried that he would be disliked. He had thought too much. This mother was quite down to earth. But mother, what is this situation with you? Xiao Hang looked at her belly, which was about to hit the table. Is it my father's? When this was mentioned, Princess Xianyang became angry. She had clearly drunk the contraceptive soup. How could she still be pregnant? What was hateful was that she only reacted after 3 months. If she had known earlier, she would have drunk a few more bowls of contraceptive soup. She did not know if it was because it sensed its mother's dislike, but the little guy in her belly pitifully flipped over and kicked a few times, leaving its own footprints on its mother's belly. Princess Xianyang held her belly and sucked in a breath of cold air. This child really was noisy. Qing-er was very well behaved in her belly. Xiao Hang nodded seriously. It seems that it is my father's. Aside from my father, I can't think of any other man that can make you grit your teeth like this. Digression. Little Bao Bao extended his little jib. Geo, come, let's give each other a hand, clap. The newest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1052163220. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 892. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. Is it going to be due soon? Xiao Hing asked. Princess Shenyang looked down at her belly and sighed. It should have been due long ago, but it just won't come out. The delivery date was 10 days later than the mammy's calculation. Every day, the doctor would come to check her pulse, which was normal. Xiao Heng roughly understood why his great-aunt didn't mention his brother to his mother. It was not easy for his mother to have this baby. If she rushed over to find Shangguan Qing, the journey would be bumpy, and both the baby and the baby might die. People always needed a long time to digest bad news, but they could adapt to good news very quickly. To Xiao Hang and Shangguan Qing, this little brother or little sister that was about to be born was one. To Princess Shenyang, this son that she had lost and regained was also one. Xiao Hang knew that the two had a lot to talk about, so he stood up and said to Yujin, "Aunt Yujin, there is still some luggage in the carriage." Yujin understood and said with a smile, "Okay, I'll ask someone to move it." "I'll go too." Xiao Hang and Yujin walked out together. The door of the room was open, and the feather-like snow was falling. The entire courtyard became white. Princess Shenyang was not used to being too close to men, but Shangguan Qing was her own flesh and blood. He was someone she wanted to be close to even if she had to overcome her psychological barrier. When Xiao Hang was in the room, she restrained herself from showing too much affection. Otherwise, if Xiao Hang felt that she favored one and discriminated against the other, she wouldn't be happy. In fact, she was confused because she cared too much. Shangguan Qing had suffered too much. Xiao Hang felt that it was right for anyone to dote on him. Princess Shenyang looked at Shangguan Qing, hesitated, and said, "Mother, can I sit here?" She was referring to the seat Xiao Hang had just sat. It was closer to Shangguan Qing. "Ah, okay." Shangguan Qing agreed blankly. Seeing that she couldn't move, he quickly reacted. Let me sit here. Princess Xinyang broke into a smile. Princess Xinyang was a beauty who had been treated well by the passage of time. The crown princess's beauty was aggressive and bright, while Princess Xinyang was more like a green lotus on top of the heavenly mountain. Elegant, calm, and graceful. On a whim, Shangguan Qing decided to find a wife like his mother in the future. However, it seemed that there was no chance. Princess Xinyang stared at her son. She couldn't get enough of him. She had a lot of things she wanted to say to her son, but she didn't know where to start. He was not the only one who was nervous. He was worried that Princess Xinyang wouldn't like a son like him. Princess Xinyang was also worried that he wouldn't like her, a mother who had never raised him for even a day. You. The Duke of Xinyang opened his mouth and tried to find a topic to talk about. Right, why didn't Zhao Jiao come back with you? Shangguan Qing said, Jean's state is still at war, so she can't come back for the time being. But don't worry, the most dangerous period has passed. Victory is within the grasp of the imperial court's army. Nothing will happen to her. Moreover, ever since the Gu army arrived, that Gu Chongqing didn't let the little girl go to the front lines anymore. She was mainly responsible for guarding Chuyang City and treating the wounded soldiers. Of course, this was also a very difficult task. After all, human lives were more important than anything. Every life was precious. Princess Xinyang relaxed a little. Then, did you run into Long Yi? Shangguan Qing said, I didn't run into him. Aheng said that he left after sending Aheng back to Yen country from the border. It seemed that Long Yi and Aheng had met. That was true. After being together for so many years, the one Long Yi couldn't let go of the most was Aheng. Before he went to find his answer, he would definitely say goodbye to Aheng. However, she had thought that Long Yi's answer was in Yen country. Now, it seemed that there was another place. Shangguan Qing didn't know much about Long Yi. He only knew that he was the princess hidden guard. He watched Xiao Hang grow up and seemed to have some background. Now, he was going to find his past. Princess Xinyang asked again, Are you married? This was a topic that all parents in the world couldn't avoid. That's not right, you asked everyone. Why didn't you ask my father? Shangguan Qing said truthfully, I am not married. Princess Xinyang thought about how he had been poisoned all these years. Presumably, he was not in the mood to get married. She did not continue this topic and asked, Has your poison been cured? This was the most important thing. Earlier, she had only been focused on her son and had forgotten the most important thing. It has been cured. Shangguan Qing said with a smile. Princess Xinyang asked doubtfully, When was it cured? Wasn't there nothing that the Imperial Preceptor Hall could do? It had to be said that a mother's intuition was very strong. Shangguan Qing had anticipated that she would have such doubts and said according to the script he had prepared, There is a type of purple grass. Its roots can be refined into a very powerful poison. Out of 100 people, only one person can survive. For people like me who don't know martial arts, the chances of survival are even lower. But as long as one can endure, all pain and poison can be cured without any medicine. Hearing that this method was so powerful, Princess Xinyang's heart jumped. This type of purple grass is very rare. Fortunately, the Han family of Yen country planted a purple grass garden at the border. After the imperial army took over the Han family, their purple grass garden was confiscated. I thought that since I was going to die anyway, I might as well try it. I almost didn't make it back alive to see you. As he spoke, he grabbed Princess Xinyang's wrist, feeling wronged. The purple grass poison is very powerful. I was in so much pain those days. When there were more details in a matter, it could be more convincing. Truth and lies, truth and falsehood. Coupled with his coquettish behavior, it was easy to believe. Her son's sudden closeness made Princess Xinyang so happy that her mind went blank. Have you ever thought about what if mother doesn't believe you? She's not that easy to fool. She's very smart. I have my ways. It seemed that he had achieved his goal. His mother was immersed in the joy of getting along with her son and lost her judgment and suspicion. But in fact, even he himself couldn't tell if he was getting close to his mother to achieve his goal, or if he had always wanted to be close to her. Princess Xingyang raised her other hand and gripped her son's hand tightly. She had finally calmed down, but her heart ached at his misfortune. "You've suffered," she choked out. "In the future, Mother won't let you suffer anymore." He nodded and gently pressed his cheek against the back of Princess Xingyang's hand. "Mother still loves me the most. She's much better than stinky younger brother. Stinky younger brother only knows how to make me angry." Princess Xingyang's tears immediately began to flow. After night fell, mother and son ate dinner in the side hall. Princess Xingyang smiled and looked at Shangguanqing, saying, "Aheng said that you don't eat fennel, so I told the chefs not to use any spices. Have a taste and see if it suits your taste." Shangguanqing had lost all appetite for food long ago. These days, he had been forcing himself to eat. Otherwise, he would have the accompanying medical officer give him some fluids. But seeing the table full of delicious dishes, he still moved his chopsticks and tasted each dish. "Is it delicious?" Princess Xingyang asked with a smile, pretending not to see him forcefully swallow. "Delicious," Shangguanqing said. "It suits my taste better than Yen country's food." Princess Xingyang gently smiled. "Even if it's delicious, you can't eat too much. It's late at night. If you eat too much, it's easy to get indigestion." Shangguanqing's chopsticks paused, and the tip of his nose became sour. Something welled up in his heart, but his expression did not change. He snorted and said, "All right, if I eat a little, then I'll eat a little." He had long since lost his appetite. Every mouthful was torture. Xiaoheng looked at him, then looked at Princess Xingyang. He then said to Shangguanqing, "You just ate so much tonghulu. Do you still have a stomach? Don't stuff yourself to death." Princess Xingyang quickly said, "Why didn't you say that you ate tonghulu earlier? Then quickly stop eating." "Oh." Shangguanqing looked deeply at her, then lowered his gaze and put down his chopsticks. Xiaoheng said, "Elder brother, still needs to return to Yen country." Princess Xingyang clenched her fists under her wide sleeves. She used a great deal of effort to resist the urge to cry. She looked at the two brothers and was slightly surprised. "Is that so? Qing'er will not remain in Zhao country?" Xiaoheng sighed and continued to act with the two. "Elder brother and I have already discussed it. There is no need to change our identities." Princess Xingyang's swollen and painful throat moved a bit. She smiled and said, "When will you leave?" Xiaoheng said, "There is a war at the border, and the emperor of Yen country has just passed away. There is no one in the court to take charge of the situation. Elder brother has to go back as soon as possible. Perhaps in the next 2 days?" Princess Xingyang's right hand held the vegetables, and the nails of her left hand dug deeply into her palm. She looked at Shangguanqing reluctantly, her eyes unconsciously turning red. "Then will you still come back to see mother?" Shangguanqing smiled and said, "Of course I will, right, younger brother?" Xiaoheng, "Yes. I will dress up as you and come back to see mother." Princess Xingyang's tears fell with a pitter-patter. Shangguanqing looked at her with forbearance, wanting to say something but hesitating. Princess Xingyang wiped her tears and said with red and swollen eyes, "I didn't expect you to leave so soon after coming back. Mother will pack your things." "Yujin." "Yes." Yujin opened the curtain and entered, helping Princess Xingyang up from the chair. Princess Xingyang left the side hall and walked through a long corridor. After turning the corner, she finally couldn't hold it in anymore. In the wind and snow, she covered her face with both hands, trembling all over, and cried. Inside the room, Xiaoheng looked helplessly at Shangguanqing. Mother saw through it. Shangguanqing whispered, "I know." Xiaoheng asked, "Then do you still want to leave?" Shangguanqing's expression was very calm. Every step that he took was not a last-minute decision but a decision that he had made from the beginning. "I cannot die in front of her. I hope that she will remember me, the way I am when I am alive. A living son. not a corpse in her arms that can no longer be awakened. That will be a nightmare she will never be able to get rid of. Digression, Little Bow Bow. Dad, if you don't hurry up, little Guagua will be gone. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/10521531. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 893. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. In November, it snowed heavily for 3 days at the border. The people's doors were frozen, and the streets were also frozen. It was impossible to go out. The soldiers of Black Wind Camp were sent out to clear the snow and remove the ice. Ching and Ahing's luck is pretty good. It snowed just after they left. If they were delayed for 1 more day, they might not be able to leave the city. Pooh City was also snowing heavily. Shangguan Yen stood outside the tent, looking in the direction of the official road and muttering to herself. Huan Er put a thick cloak on her and said, "It's still dark. Your Highness, why don't you go back and sleep for a while?" Shangguan Yen gathered the cloak and shook her head. "No, I can't sleep." Huan Er tied a ribbon for her and comforted her. "Heaven helps the 2 little highnesses. They will be fine." Shangguan Yen nodded. "I hope so." Huan Er, as a confidant, already knew the ins and outs of these people. She sighed and said, "Marquis has been gone for almost 20 days. I don't know if he got the antidote for the little highnesses." Half a month ago, Marquis Xianping and Chongjing went all the way north along the Heavenly Mountain Pass and arrived at the northern border of the Yen Kingdom. After passing through the iron fence in front of them, they were no longer in the territory of the Yen Kingdom. "Let's stop the horses here," Chongjing said. "After crossing the mountains at the end of the valley is the ice field. Ordinary horses can't walk on the ice, and there is no food for them. Of course, if they are used as food, they can still be brought along." Marquis Xianping looked at the fat and strong Black Wind Cavalry. He thought that if he killed the Black Wind Cavalry and ate it, his daughter-in-law would kill him. The 3 people gave the horses to the soldiers at the border. Under the leadership of Chongjing, they passed through the valley, crossed the mountains, and arrived at the endless ice field. Yi Qing grew up in Chengdu and had never seen such a vast ice field. For a moment, he felt as small as a grain of sand. Marquis Xianping also came to the ice field in the extreme north for the first time. He couldn't help but slightly look at Chongjing and asked, "You mean we have to walk?" "Of course not," Chongjing coldly said. Marquis Xianping looked at a certain person in amusement. "You're still standing up in front of me." Chongjing didn't say anything. She turned around and left. Yi Qing asked, "Is he angry?" "I won't," Marquis Xianping said lightly. Chongjing didn't know where he went. He only returned after about an hour, and he didn't come back alone. Instead, he sat in a very strange. Yi Qing frowned. What is this?" "And the one pulling the carriage seems to be a wolf?" Chongjing stopped the snowmobile, jumped down, and said to the 2, "They are dire wolves, specially used to pull snowmobiles." Yi Qing was surprised. "This is the first time I have seen a car without wheels." If Gu Jiao were here, she would definitely recognize that this snowmobile was similar to the sleigh she had in her previous life. It was not exactly the same, but the bottom was waxed, making it very easy to slide on the snow and ice. Chong Jing said, "This is a snowmobile hidden by our Dark Knight Island." Rumor has it that the Dark Knight Island and the Six Nations didn't have any dealings. That was only in the political sense. In reality, the people on the island also needed to go out to purchase supplies and do some other things. The three got on the snowmobile pulled by 20 direwolves. Chong Jing stood at the front, Marquis Xian Ping sat in the middle, and Yi Qing sat at the back. Chong Jing pulled the reins. "Sit tight, we're going." Yi Qing calmly replied, "Oh." The next second, he was blown out of the sad frog expression pack by the whistling cold wind. The speed of the snowmobile was too fast. The person was already far away, but the soul was still frozen in place. Even Marquis Xian Ping felt that this thing was too exciting. F***K. It was even more exciting than being carried by Long E. Chong Jing had played since childhood, so his expression was very calm. He drove the snowmobile and perfectly matched the speed of the direwolves. He didn't forget to remind the two, "Close your eyes. If you look at the snow for too long, you will easily get snow blindness." Yi Qing was already dying. "Are you sure it's a snowmobile and not a flying one? I'm afraid I won't be able to make it back alive." In order to pass through the ice field before the blizzard arrived, Chong Jing practically didn't rest. But direwolves needed to rest, so whenever they needed to recover their health, Chong Jing and Yi Qing would go hunting nearby. At night, they slept in a temporary tent. The temperature in the ice field was very cold, but since they were all martial artists, their physique was different from normal people, so they were able to withstand it. These days lasted for an entire 7 days. When night fell on the 7th day, they saw an island standing on a layer of light blue ice. "It's already frozen. Perfect." Chong Jing said to Marquis Xian Ping and Yi Qing, "Otherwise, we'd have to swim." Yi Qing's mouth twitched. "No boats." Chong Jing said, "In order to prevent people from traveling during the cold winter, after entering October, all the nearby boats were withdrawn." The group of people sat on the snowmobile and slid across the thick ice layer. The ice layer seemed to have just formed, as there were some places that weren't thick enough. When the snowmobile passed by, it immediately cracked open. Marquis Xian Ping remembered that there seemed to be a lot of lakes on the way here. He didn't know if they were all frozen on the way back. If so, then he didn't need to go around, which could save a lot of time. When the snowmobile stopped near the island, more than a dozen guards on the island cautiously rushed out, drawing their bows and aiming at them. The leader shouted, "Who dares to trespass on the Dark Knight Island?" Yi Qing felt a strong pressure. These people were definitely not ordinary guards, as each of their aura was unbelievably strong. Chong Jing took off her hat, looked up at the other side, and said, "Uncle Ling, it's me." "Little Jing?" The middle-aged man called Uncle Ling was shocked. He put away his bow and looked deeply at Chong Jing. It really is Little Jing. Little Jing, you're finally back. You've been gone for so many years, the sect master is worried sick. I'll let someone inform your father. He will be very happy to know you're back." Chong Jing looked down and sighed. Uncle Ling's movements were fast, but the sect master of the Dark Knight Gate, Chong Kuen's speed was even faster. When Chong Jing and the other two just got on the island, Chong Kuen was like a flying dragon in the sky, majestically arriving. Chong Jing was Chong Kuen's old son. Chong Kuen was older than the old chancellor, but he was strong. Although he had white hair, he was hale and hearty. His internal force was unfathomable. He landed steadily in front of Chong Jing, looked at the young boy who was almost 18 years old, and clenched his fists fiercely. Yi Qing whispered to Marquis Xian Ping, "Chong Jing ran away from home and didn't come back for 3 years. Will his father break his legs? His father looks very angry." Of course Chong Kuen was angry. His murderous aura was enough to destroy the world. Just when Yi Qing thought Chong Jing was going to be slapped away by his father, Chong Kuen hugged his son into his arms. "Father's little darling. You're finally back. Where have you been these years? Father has been looking for you so hard. Father thought he would never see you again." Chong Kuan burst into tears. Yi Qing, the father and son reunion drama wasn't over yet. 7 women who were as light as swallows flew over from the island. These people all had excellent qinggong. The oldest was around 40, and the youngest was around 24 or 25. Their faces were all very delicate and pretty. The 7 people swarmed around the father and son, took out their handkerchiefs, and cried. "Little brother, where have you been all these years? Big sister missed you so much. Second sister also missed you so much. Third sister went to your room every day to clean, but didn't see you come back. Little brother, look, fourth sister is so hungry." Fourth sister cried and burped, then continued. Yi Qing's mouth twitched again. These 7 women were all Chong Jing sisters? After Chong Jing was hugged by his father, he was also hugged by his 7 sisters. The sisters' crying skills were much better than his father's. Like a soulless puppet, he was hugged by his sisters. Chong Jing's mother passed away not long after giving birth to him. Although he didn't have a mother, the 7 sisters together were not to be trifled with. "Tell big sister, who took you away? You couldn't come back to see us for so many years." Big sister's reaction was the fastest. She didn't believe that her little brother had been wandering outside alone for 3 years. Marquis Xian Ping's heart thumped. No way. She could guess this. Chong Jing turned around and looked at Marquis Xian Ping. The 7 sisters and his father all looked at Marquis Xian Ping. Marquis Xian Ping sighed without changing his expression. The fairies guessed correctly. Chong Jing was indeed taken away. It was I who saved him halfway. I was worried that those people would come looking for him again, so I personally sent him home. Yi Qing was stunned. In terms of shamelessness, you're number 1 in the world. Chong Jing raised his eyebrows and curled his lips. Marquis Xian Ping. A box of marbles. Chong Jing. No, I want 2 boxes. 1 box of enamel, 1 box of glass. Marquis Xian Ping. That's the most expensive. And don't you already have a box of glass marbles? Just bought it. Chong Jing said to Chong Kuan, "Father." Marquis Xian Ping painfully clenched his fist. His heart was bleeding, but there was a slight smile on his face. "Deal." "Yes, that's it," Chong Jing said to his father and sisters. Chong Kuan flew into a rage. "Who dares to kidnap my son?" Chong Jing looked at Marquis Xian Ping and raised his eyebrows. 5 boxes of marbles, I said it was the sword hut. Marquis Xian Ping, who never thought that one day he would be blackmailed by little Chong Jing. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/8964289642826/1051971006. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 894. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. Chong Jing, who extorted 7 boxes of marbles in one breath, finally felt proud. There were no marbles on the island. At first, there were, but when Chong Jing was 3 years old, he accidentally swallowed a marble and almost died. Chong Kuan and Chong Jing's 7 sisters never allowed him to touch this dangerous thing again. Even when Chong Jing grew up, the psychological shadow of these people still didn't disappear. Chong Kuan angrily said, "Those bastards of the sword hut, I've long disliked them. Now they actually dare to bully my son. When the ice and snow melts, see how I deal with them." Chong Jing said to his father, "I'm hungry." Chong Kuan put away his anger and said with a smile, "Okay, let's go home and eat." As he spoke, he made an inviting gesture to Xian Ping Ho and Yi Qing. "Two distinguished guests, this way please." The person who saved his son was the benefactor of the Dark Knight sect. He would treat them well. The group of people followed the old sect master back to the Dark Knight sect. The residents on the island were not all disciples of the sect. There were also former fishermen and partners who were married outside. Chong Kuan was both the sect master and the island master. As the only son, Chong Jing should inherit his mantle in the future. Chong Jing didn't want to be the island master at all. He looked at the 7 sisters around him. How come he had been gone for 3 years and none of them became the young island master? Xian Ping Ho and Yi Qing lived in Chong Jing's courtyard. The servants went to clean up the house and the kitchen prepared dinner. Chong Kuan and Xian Ping Ho chatted in the flower pavilion. Yi Qing asked if he could walk around. Chong Kuan told him to do as he pleased and to treat this place as his own home. Chong Jing was called by the 7 sisters to compete. Yi Qing heard the movement in the courtyard and curiously went to watch the battle. He had heard that Chong Jing was good at martial arts, but he had never really seen him fight. "Brother, I'll use a sword to compete with you." Chong Jing sighed. "Okay." The 2 siblings began to exchange blows in the spacious courtyard. Chong Jing's moves were infused with Marquis Xian Ping's fierce and domineering aura. Compared to 3 years ago, her strength was much stronger. 7th sister's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. After 10 moves, her treasured saber was sent flying by the long sword. "Sister 6 is here to challenge you." 6th sister's weapon of choice was a long sword. After exchanging about 15 moves with Chong Jing, she was also defeated by Chong Jing. The other sisters also exchanged blows with Chong Jing one after another. The sparring between siblings was not so murderous. If the weapon left the hand, it would be considered a defeat. Chong Jing won 7 matches in a row. The eldest sister patted her brother's shoulder in satisfaction. "That's right. It seems that you haven't neglected your martial arts in the past 3 years. All right, you're all sweaty. Hurry back to your room and change your clothes." "Oh." Chong Jing sheathed her sword and obediently returned to her room. As soon as he left, the sisters let out a long sigh of relief. Sister 7 said, "I gave him 2 moves just now." Sister 6 said, "I gave him 3 moves." Sister 5 said, "I only used 30% of my strength, but he also only used 50%. Sister 4 said, "Brother still has some improvement. Before leaving the island, even if I gave him a chance, he still couldn't take 1 move. Today he took 5 moves." Listening to the conversation between Chong Jing and the other sisters, Yi Qing felt like he was about to start doubting his life. Chong Jing is already very good at fighting, yet you guys are even better than her. What kind of weirdos are you guys on this island? Yi Qing didn't come out aimlessly for a stroll. He brought a mission. Xian Ping Ho was in charge of making friends with the old sect master, while he was in charge of finding the purple grass. Although the purple grass was only a weed in the back mountain, if they said they were here for it, then wouldn't it be exposed? But, where is the back mountain? Just when Yi Qing was thinking about whether or not to ask someone, Chong Jing's sisters came over. The eldest sister, Chong Ying, cupped her hands and said, "Hero Yi." The others also cupped their hands and greeted him. Zhang Hu's sons and daughters were all the same as men. Yi Qing cupped his hands and greeted back. Mississippi, Chong Ying, as the eldest daughter, was looking for a son-in-law, but the servants still called her Mississippi. Her sisters were looking for a son-in-law, and some were getting married, but as long as they were in the sect, they were still called Mississippi. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Naturally, he didn't nitpick whether or not the title was reasonable. Chong Ying said, "Is Hero Yi bored staying in the house? Do you want to spar with us?" Yi Qing dryly laughed and thought to himself, "Forget it. If I spar with you guys, I'm afraid the sword has no eyes." He politely said, "I don't dare to embarrass myself in front of you ladies. I'm just casually strolling. Let's go sit in the pavilion." Chong-ing said, "Sister, go make a pot of flower tea. My sister's tea-making skills are superb." Yi Qing and the Chong family's daughters came to the pavilion. There were very few female disciples in the state teacher's palace, and those who could get close to him were even rarer. To be honest, it was his first time interacting with so many women. Fortunately, the several daughters were valiant and didn't care about trifles. They could make people temporarily forget the difference in status. There were only 4 stone stools beside the table. The 4th to 7th stood. The second sister Chong Ling quickly made the flower tea. She sat down beside the eldest sister and poured a cup of tea for Yi Qing. Yi Qing picked up the teacup and gently took a sip. Chong-ing said, "Hero Yi, my 7th sister is still unmarried. What do you think of my 7th sister?" Cough. Yi Qing choked. This direct. Isn't this topic a bit too sudden? 7th Miss Chong, you said, "Big sister, I don't like him like this." Chong-ing asked, "What do you like? Like Hero Xiao?" "Hero Xiao already has a wife," Yi Qing hurriedly said. Chong-yu curled her lips. "Then I don't care." Yi Qing didn't expect that coming out for a breath of fresh air would turn into a large-scale blind date. He was so embarrassed that he could use his toes to dig out a state teacher's palace. Chong-ing stared at her 7th sister. "You're just too picky. That's why you're still unmarried at 25. Chong-yu humphed. "I don't want to marry anyways." Yi Qing dryly laughed, drank tea. Fortunately, Chong-ing didn't continue this topic. She looked at Yi Qing and said, "Hero Yi, is this tea good?" Yi Qing paused and said, "The taste is quite novel. I've never had this kind of flower tea before. May I ask what flower is used?" 7th Miss Chong-yu was unhappy about being urged to get married. She immediately sold out her second sister. In fact, it's just a wild flower in the back mountain. Second sister specifically used it to fool the outsiders. Second sister Chong Ling's hair stood up and wanted to beat her. Eldest sister Chong-ing frowned. "Second sister, you're messing around again. How can you use a wild flower to entertain Hero Yi? Hero Yi is Hero Xiao's friend. Hero Xiao is my brother's savior. The two of them are my dark night sex guests." Chong Ling wasn't young anymore, but her cute habit of teasing people didn't change at all. She curled her lips and unwillingly said, "Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't sincerely use a wild flower to fool the guests." 7th Miss Chong-yu quietly sneered, twisting words and forcing logic. Yi Qing's eyes lit up when he heard about the back mountain. He hurriedly said, No. This flower tea tastes very good. I don't know what kind of wild flower it is. Can I take a look?" When they reach the back mountain, they'll be able to see the purple grass right. When the time comes, they'll pick up a few. "Second sister, why aren't you going to pick it?" Chong-ing wanted to punish her. She didn't order the youngest Chong-yu, but instead let her go personally. Chong Ling went with a black face. Not long after, she came back with a basket full of flowers. Looking at the flowers and plants in the basket, Yi Qing's eyes were straight. "Aren't these the purple grass they've been searching for? The difference is, these purple grass actually bloomed." Purple grass can bloom? Never heard of it. What's wrong, Hero Yi? Chong-ing caught his strange look. Yi Qing came back to his senses and suddenly realized that what he just drank was tea made from purple grass. Then he wouldn't be poisoned, right? Yi Qing calmed down, carefully considered his words, and said, "To be honest, I've seen this kind of purple grass in a book. Its roots are highly toxic, but it doesn't bloom." Chong Ling once again exploded. "What do you mean? You're suspecting me of poisoning you?" The third sister opened her mouth. "It's just diarrhea, how can you say it's highly toxic?" "That's a bit too much information. So you guys ate the roots of the purple grass, but the result was diarrhea?" Chong-ing thought for a bit and said, "If the roots of this kind of grass are accidentally eaten, it's indeed easy to be mildly poisoned." Just diarrhea and poisoned, bam. Chong-ing ridiculed in her heart, but on the surface she said, but you'll be fine after eating some of its fruits. Yi Qing was startled again. Not only does it bloom, it also bears fruit? As if seeing Yi Qing's doubts, Chongying explained, this grass blooms in the cold winter and bears fruit when it's coldest. If it's not cold enough, then it's just a grass all year round. With that said, Yi Qing understood. The purple grass likes the cold, and cold places are best for it to grow. And because the temperature in other places of the 6 countries is not cold enough, it can't bloom and bear fruit. And listening to Chongying's words, the roots are poisonous, but its fruit can detoxify. Yi Qing looked at the 7 daughters of the Chong family in disbelief. The roots of this purple grass are highly toxic. Even experts will die if they eat it, but you guys are only mildly poisoned. Chongying murmured, will I die? I don't know if I've died before. Yi Qing, Chongying thoughtfully said, maybe it's because we ate a lot of its fruits. Chongyu nodded, the fruits of the purple grass are very delicious. Then can you guys give me some of the purple grass? Yi Qing didn't even have time to ask this sentence before his eyes rolled over and he fell to the ground with a thump. The 7th Miss Chongyu asked, huh? Big sister, what's wrong with him? Chongying took a deep breath, suppressed her anger, and looked at the 2nd Miss Chongling. Second sister, how many times have I said, the wildflowers and weeds in the back mountain are not clean, you need to wash it a few more times. Yi Qing was lying on the ground, vomiting black blood. Is this a matter of washing it a few more times? It's basically poison. You guys aren't even afraid of the purple grass poison. What kind of perverts are you guys? I've already washed it clean. The 2nd Miss Chong felt wronged. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are also updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1051954887. HTML Genius memorized this site's URL. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 895. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. Steaming hot food was quickly placed on the table. Chong Kuan called Marquis Xian Ping to the side hall to sit. Also waiting in the side hall were Chong Kuan's 6 sons-in-law. He introduced them to Marquis Xian Ping one by one. They all knew that this was Chong Jing's savior, so they treated Marquis Xian Ping very politely. Marquis Xian Ping looked at this full family and was a little unsure of what to say. Great Hero Xiao, please sit. Chong Kuan said. Marquis Xian Ping sat to Chong Kuan's left. The daughters did not eat at the same table as men, so Chong Kuan's sons-in-law began to take their seats. To Marquis Xian Ping's side was Yi Qing's seat. They very considerately left it empty, and the seat to Chong Kuan's left was also empty. Marquis Xian Ping thought a little and should have left it for Chong Jing. It seemed that Chong Jing's position on the island was not low. After leaving for 3 years, he was still treated as the young master of the island. Not long later, Chong Jing came over. He had taken a bath and changed into dry clothes. His hairstyle had also changed. It was no longer tied into a single bun. Instead, he had braided his hair like the men on the island. The 7 older sisters had braided it. After 3 years, they could finally braid their younger brother's hair again. The 7 older sisters were very happy. My wife has never braided my hair before. The 6 brothers-in-law expressed their jealousy. Marquis Xian Ping looked at Chong Jing and suddenly had the feeling that his son had grown up. Of course, Chong Jing was not his son, but Chong Jing had appeared during the darkest days when he had lost Aheng. To say that Chong Jing was Aheng's substitute was not enough, but Chong Jing had indeed accompanied him through a very difficult time. Chong Jing greeted his father and brothers-in-law one by one, then sat down next to Marquis Xian Ping. "The way you look at me is very strange." Marquis Xian Ping calmly retracted his gaze and asked in a normal tone, "Where is Yi Qing?" "He was poisoned," Chong Jing said. "How was he poisoned?" Marquis Xian Ping asked. Seeing Chong Jing's appearance, he was not worried that he had been poisoned. Chong Jing sighed and said, "It's all because you Outer Islanders are so delicate. You can get poisoned just by drinking 2 mouthfuls of flower tea. I've been drinking it since I was young and I'm fine." Marquis Xian Ping. The food on the island was mainly fish. Chong Kuan was worried that Marquis Xian Ping would not be used to it, so he specially invited a chef from another island to make a few side dishes. Marquis Xian Ping was not a picky eater. He had eaten the corpses of horses and grass during the war. He was satisfied to be able to eat a hot meal. Chong Kuan smiled and said, "By the way, Hero Xiao, there will be a martial arts competition on our island in a few days. Would you like to come and watch?" Marquis Xian Ping smiled and said, "I would like to stay, but there are urgent matters at home. I have to go back as soon as possible." Chong Jing's brother-in-law, who was beside her, said in surprise, "What? You want to leave the island in this weather? It was almost November. It's very likely that there's already a snowstorm on the ice field." Chong Kuan said earnestly, "That's right, Hero Xiao. You haven't been to the island, so you might not know the terrible weather on the ice field. Even I don't dare to enter the ice field at this time." Chong Jing lowered her head and ate without saying a word. "Do you think you can persuade him?" His son wanted the antidote. Even if he had to die, he would die on the way to deliver the medicine. Chong Jing poked a piece of fish with her chopsticks. Her movement was so big that the plate broke into 2 halves. Chong Kuan smiled and said, "You see, little Jing is angry. He wants you to stay." Marquis Xian Ping glanced at Chong Jing and sighed, "I appreciate your good intentions. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely visit the island again." Since he had said so, Chong Kuan and his sons-in-law didn't persuade him anymore. "When do you leave?" Chong Kuan asked. "I'll ask someone to prepare things for you on the way." If it were any other season, Chong Kuan would definitely ask someone to send Marquis Xian Ping across the ice field. But the ice field in winter was too dangerous. He couldn't let his clansmen take the risk. In fact, there was no point in taking the risk, because they would definitely die on the ice field. Chong Kuan regretted. Marquis Xian Ping said, "Tomorrow morning." After dinner, Marquis Xian Ping returned to his room. It took them 2 days to leave the border of the Great Yen from Chuyang City and 7 days to walk on the ice field. They didn't have a good rest. Marquis Xian Ping's body was covered with new and old injuries. He was very tired. Tonight, he had to conserve his energy to deal with the upcoming snowstorm. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Marquis Xian Ping had just untied his belt and was about to take a hot bath. Hearing the sound, he said, "Come in." The door was pushed open and Chong Jing walked in slowly. He was holding a small wooden box in his hand. He handed the small wooden box to Marquis Xian Ping and said indifferently, "Here, the weeds you wanted have been dug up. There are also flowers and fruits. If you accidentally eat the weeds, you'll be fine after eating 2 fruits." Everything in the world had a counter to each other. The reason why there was no antidote for the purple grass poison was that its only antidote was its own fruit. "Can this fruit cure other poisons?" Marquis Xian Ping asked. If it could, then wouldn't Qing not have to take such a big risk to eat the purple grass poison? Chong Jing said, "I don't know. I haven't tried it. No one on the island has been poisoned." Marquis Xian Ping thought of the fallen Yi Qing. "I doubt the truth that no one on your island has been poisoned." Marquis Xian Ping took the small box. "Speaking of which, why is there so much purple grass on your island?" Chong Jing said, "It wasn't there from the beginning. It was planted by the first island master." Marquis Xian Ping looked at him. The first island master? Your ancestor? Chong Jing said, the first island master's surname wasn't Chong. He was a very mysterious person. His memorial tablet was placed in the innermost part of the ancestral hall. Only the previous sect masters were qualified to worship him. I'm not the sect master yet, so I don't know his name. That kind of weeds was originally only on our island. Later, some people secretly dug them up. I don't understand. What's so good about weeds? So the weeds in the 6 nations? No, the purple grass all came from the Dark Night Island? Chong Jing snorted coldly. It's useless to dig them up. This kind of weeds can only bloom and bear fruit on the Dark Night Island. The first island master was a very powerful person. He created the Dark Knight sect, which was much more powerful than the Lord of Shadows. He didn't accept any rebuttal. In Puching, he always heard the people of the Shadow sect boasting about the first Lord of Shadows. Little Chong Jing was a little rebellious. Marquis Xian Ping didn't know the use of this information, but he still secretly remembered it. Then he looked at Chong Jing and saw that his face was very ugly. He raised his hand and rubbed his head. He said amusedly, "Who are you showing your bitter face to?" Chong Jing expressed his dissatisfaction with his behavior and said bitterly, "A man's head and a woman's waist can only be seen, not touched." Marquis Xian Ping laughed out loud. "A man? Is your hair all grown out?" Chong Jing looked up at the sky. In a moment, he turned his back, lowered his head, and opened his belt to take a look. Marquis Xian Ping was speechless. Before dawn, Marquis Xian Ping packed up his things and set off. The purple grass was the most important thing. He put a layer of wax on the outside of the wooden box and wrapped it tightly with a layer of cowhide. In this way, even if it was wet in the wind and snow, it wouldn't be soaked. In addition, there was some dry food to eat on the road, ropes for first aid, and so on. Chong Kuan ordered people to pack them in a sealable basket. There was a little space left in the basket, just enough to put the wooden box. With Chong Kuan and the 7 sisters watching, Chong Jing definitely couldn't leave. Yi Qing was poisoned. Although he ate the fruit, he was still unconscious for several days. However, Marquis Xian Ping originally didn't plan to bring the 2 of them. He wanted to save his son. Chong Jing and Yi Qing were other people's sons. He set off alone without alerting anyone. Chong Jing was very sad. He sat in the room, hugging the glass marbles that he secretly brought back, and didn't sleep for the whole night. In the courtyard, Chong Ying glanced at her brother's closed door, frowned, and chased after him. At the place where they went ashore yesterday, there were already guards prepared a snowmobile. Marquis Xian Ping walked over. The guard saluted him. "Hero Xiao, this is the island master's snowmobile. It's the lightest material and the fastest. In addition, the dire wolf has also been changed." Marquis Xian Ping could see that whether it was the snowmobile or the dire wolf, they were much better than when they came. Marquis Xian Ping said, "Thank the island master for me." The guard said, "The island master said this is what he should do." Marquis Xian Ping prepared to set off. At this moment, a cold murderous aura came from behind him. Marquis Xian Ping's eyes moved. He dodged, turned around, and hit the other side with a palm. The other side nimbly dodged and slashed at him with a knife. Marquis Xian Ping recognized the other side. It was Chong Jing's eldest sister, Chong Ying. Strange, why did she want to assassinate him? The 2 exchanged 10 moves. Marquis Xian Ping didn't use his true strength. The other side looked fierce, but in fact, he didn't really kill. After another move, Chong Ying was repelled. She stepped on the ice 10 steps away from Marquis Xian Ping. She coldly looked at Marquis Xian Ping. "Sure enough, the person who kidnapped my brother was you." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www ZHHBQG. com/89642-89642-826/105176579. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 896. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Marquis Xianping squinted his eyes slightly. Chong-Ying said lightly, "I've sparred with my brother. His swordsmanship has many moves that we don't have in the Dark Knight sect, and his body movement is similar to yours. I'm guessing that my brother has been by your side all these years, right? You came back to the Dark Knight Island this time just for the weeds in the back mountain, right?" Chong Jing went behind their backs to dig weeds. Did she really think that they didn't know? Marquis Xianping suddenly realized, "So that's how you exposed yourself." Chong-Ying pointed her sword at him. "If you admit it, it means that you're very smart. If you quibbled just now, I would have ordered you to be killed." Marquis Xianping smiled. "If I'm not smart, I can't become friends with the fairies, right?" Chong-Ying snorted and said, "What kind of truth are you spouting?" As long as the fairies were telling the truth, everything else was the truth. Chong-Ying continued, "Although you kidnapped my brother, from what I know about him, if you didn't treat him sincerely, he wouldn't have brought you back to the island. Do you know that there's only one kind of people who have set foot on our island these years?" "Who?" Marquis Xianping asked. "Lovers." Marquis Xianping. Chong-Ying put away her sword. "For my brother's sake, I won't tell my father about you." Marquis Xianping smiled. "Thank you. Then, I'll take my leave." "Stop." Chong-Ying stopped him. Marquis Xianping asked politely, "Fairy, do you have any other orders?" Calling her a fairy really makes one's heart bloom with joy. "Originally, I promised my younger sisters that I would let them beat you up one by one." "Forget it, I'll forgive you." Chong-Ying whistled. A snow-white direwolf with a flame mark on its head jumped down from the island. This direwolf's aura was different from other wolves, like an alpha. It came to Chong-Ying's side and Chong-Ying knelt down on one knee. Stroking its head, she said to Xianping Ho, "The Spirit King is the strongest wolf on our island. I only obtained it because I saw it injured by chance. I have never even lent it to my father, but today, I will lend it to you. The Spirit King is extremely sensitive to snowstorms. In fact, all direwolves can sense the arrival of a snowstorm, but the Spirit King knows better than them how to avoid a snowstorm." As she spoke, she thought of something, and her expression turned solemn. She warned Marquis Xianping, "Remember, if the Spirit King refuses to lead the way, then there's no way to avoid it. You must not force your way in." Marquis Xianping nodded. "I understand." "Then, how am I supposed to return it and the direwolf to you after I cross the ice field?" Chong-Ying said, "You don't have to worry about that. The Spirit King will bring them back." Marquis Xianping cupped his hands. "Farewell, Fairy Chong." Even calling her a fairy sounded so serious. Who would suspect that it was fake? When it came to coaxing women, Marquis Xianping had never stumbled before, except for Princess Xinyang. Chong-Ying placed the Spirit King at the head of the first row and fastened the reins for it. She then whispered a few words into its ear in a soft voice. It was a gentle reminder. "Lead the way for the guest, but you must also take care of yourself. You must return to my side alive." After bidding farewell to Chong-Ying, Marquis Xianping sat on the snowy carriage, put on his animal skin gloves, and grabbed the reins tightly. With a loud shout, the Spirit King led the direwolves and rushed out. On a high mountain slope, Chong Kuan and his son watched as Marquis Xianping and the direwolves gradually disappeared into the distance. Chong Jing was wearing thick leather and a hat that covered his ears. The braids that his sister had braided neatly hung over his shoulders. His eyes were clean and clear, but they were filled with sorrow. This was not a look that a 17 or 18-year-old boy should have. He was still too young, and should not have such sorrow. Chong Kuan put his hands behind his back, using his large body to block the cold winter wind for his son. He sighed and said, "Your sister lent the Spirit King to him. This is the most that we, the Dark Knight sect, can do for him. It is not that I am unwilling to lend it to others, but that it is meaningless." After seeing a natural disaster, one would know the insignificance of human strength. It was not something that martial arts could make up for. Chong Kuan could not bear to see his son's sorrowful eyes. He sighed and said, "I promise you that after spring, I will destroy the sword hut." Chong Jing hugged a box of marbles and left without a word. The Zhao Kingdom. In the house on Vermilion Bird Avenue, after Princess Xinyang finished crying, she went to prepare clothes for Shangguan Qing. In the room, Princess Xinyang, who had collected her emotions, placed a large bundle on his table. "Mother did not know that you were still alive. These clothes are your brother's." These clothes were all new. Xiao Heng had not worn them yet. Princess Xinyang could have lied and said that she had someone go to a shop to buy them for him. But she did not do so. Shangguan Qing did not need her to do so. "You are not in a hurry to leave tonight?" Princess Xinyang asked. "Yes, we leave tomorrow morning." Xiao Hang heard his words from outside the door and frowned slightly. Didn't they say that they would stay for 3 days? Why did they leave tomorrow morning? Could it be, yes, the poison in Shangguan Qing's body had begun to worsen rapidly. The medicine that the Imperial Preceptor Hall had prepared for him was gradually losing its effectiveness. He could not last for 3 days. He could take a large bottle in one go, but the price would be to fall into a coma. He would peacefully pass away in his sleep. This was the medicine's last mercy to him. But he did not want to eat. He did not want to sleep. He wanted to see his mother properly and be himself for once. He did not want to sleep in the last few hours of his life. He would rather endure the pain of being cut into pieces and leave this world clearly. Princess Xinyang's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She smiled slightly. "Then, Mother will accompany you tonight, okay?" He just couldn't bring himself to say no. He was going to die. Just let him be willful for once. He also wanted to lie by his mother's side. He wanted to be closer to her one last time. Both mother and son were reluctant to sleep. Princess Xinyang sat at the head of the bed and told him about the Zhao Kingdom. Actually, she wanted to hear more about his life in the Yen Kingdom. How he grew up, what he liked to do, what he did not like to do, and what he experienced. But she knew that he did not have any strength left. He was like a weak baby lying quietly by her side, holding her hand. He almost did not even have the strength to breathe. Mother likes to plant flowers. There are many peonies in the greenhouse. If you like, Mother will pick a few for you tomorrow morning. How could a boy like peonies? Her heart was in chaos. Tears wantonly swept across her heart. She could not tell what she was saying. "What about my father?" He suddenly weakly asked. "What kind of person is he?" "He." Princess Xinyang's thoughts cleared up in a second. She pondered for a long time, but she really did not know how to describe that man. After a while, she quietly said, "He is a good father." On the ice field, white snow covered the vast expanse. Marquis Xian Ping and the 11 direwolves were galloping in the cold wind. Marquis Xian Ping stood on the snow cart. Behind him, the dark clouds rolled, and the entire sky was gloomy. On the way here, the Spirit King had already led him and the rest of the direwolves to avoid 2 snowstorms and an avalanche. Even now, it was still running forward without sparing any effort. Under its lead, none of the direwolves fell due to exhaustion or cowardice. Marquis Xian Ping had to control the direction and balance of the snow cart, so he could not rest. The lake on the way back had already frozen. He thought that there was no need to go around, but because of the onslaught of the snowstorm, they still had to change course from time to time. They passed through the land and arrived on top of the ice layer of a lake. Marquis Xian Ping looked at the direwolf in front of him. His brows slightly furrowed as he said, The Spirit King is running so fast. Is there going to be another snowstorm? An ominous premonition rose from the bottom of his heart. He felt that the upcoming snowstorm would not be so simple. He pulled on the reins tightly. A loud rumble came from behind him. Not good. It was an avalanche. The Spirit King. He shouted loudly. The Spirit King seemed to have sensed something. It increased its speed again, and the dire wolves also sped up with it. Marquis Xian Ping turned his head to look. He saw the snow on the snowy mountain collapsing in patches, like a flood of ice and snow sweeping in their direction. The Spirit King suddenly changed course, making a sharp turn to the right. The entire team of snow carts was led astray by it, turning to the right. They went from the land to the ice layer of the lake. Marquis Xian Ping's snow cart was at the very back of the team. They had almost been thrown out by this sharp turn. To think that he had originally thought that it was exciting to drive this thing. But now he felt that it was too dangerous. Chong Jing was truly someone who had grown up playing snow carts. Her little heart was not ordinarily strong. Marquis Xian Ping was blown to the point that his face was paralyzed. Not long after they had made the turn, the flood of the avalanche had flooded the place they had just been. It spread all the way, and even the small mountain had been swallowed up. If the Spirit King had not made the sharp turn, the entire snow cart team would have been swallowed up by the avalanche. Marquis Xian Ping secretly let out a sigh of relief. But before he could finish his sigh of relief, a cracking sound came from the ice layer behind him. Marquis Xian Ping's eyebrows jumped. Crack, 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 crack. The muffled cracking sound came from under the ice. White cracks extended from the inside of the ice layer. The entire ice layer was like an ice-blue amber candy that was about to be smashed by someone. The water temperature under the ice layer was extremely low. After falling in, one would be completely numb. In this world, there was not a single expert that could swim in this low temperature. Crack. Digression. Isn't it early today? Do you have early monthly tickets? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1051755512. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 897. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all here. The corner of Marquis Xian Ping's mouth twitched. How can we be so unlucky? We just avoided the avalanche and now this. The Spirit King's speed had already reached its limit, but it had to break through its limit again. Otherwise, its companions and that human would all be buried here. The Spirit King gritted its teeth, facing the wind and galloping. The ice on both sides was the first to break. It was unable to turn onto the shore from either side, so it could only bravely move forward. Boom! The ice under the snow cart finally could not hold on and completely cracked. Seeing that the snow cart was about to fall into the ice hole, the Spirit King suddenly accelerated. The snow cart whizzed past. The Spirit King led the direwolf in a mad dash, the ice behind the snow cart cracking. This was much more dangerous than fighting a war. Fighting a war was fighting with people and was controllable. This was fighting with the extreme weather of the entire ice field. The slightest carelessness would cause the entire army to be wiped out. Marquis Xian Ping's heart was in his throat. He had never experienced such a thrilling experience in his life. If it happened another 2 times, his heart would not be able to take it. Fortunately, they had finally reached the shore. A man and a row of direwolves were all lying in the snow, panting. Most of the time, the Wolf King would follow its master's orders. However, if it encountered danger, it would disobey its master's orders and find its own way. Marquis Xian Ping said in amusement, "Fortunately, it's not a simpleton. It's an experienced Wolf King." He took out dry rations and food, and filled his stomach with the direwolves, planning to continue on their journey. However, this time, the Spirit King refused to leave no matter what. Marquis Xian Ping walked down the snow cart and came to the front of the group, checking the Spirit King's reins and wolf claws. Everything was normal. "Spirit King, it's time to set off." Marquis Xian Ping patted its back that was filled with strength. The Spirit King remained unmoving. After a moment, it circled around the same spot a few times, its eyes faintly revealing a sense of unease. Marquis Xian Ping roughly understood that there was a snowstorm up ahead. Previously, when they encountered snowstorms, the Spirit King had chosen to lead the way and did not show any signs of unease. The snowstorm this time was more severe than they had imagined. The Spirit King let out a low cry of fear and retreated a few steps back. The entire pack of wolves felt the signal from the alpha wolf and became restless. Finally, the Spirit King turned around and ran back with the pack of wolves. The ice layer had already broken, so they couldn't go straight, so they took a detour to the east. In short, they could no longer advance recklessly toward Great Yen. They were already halfway there. If they returned to the Dark Night Island now, all their efforts would be in vain. Xian Pingho's intuition told him that this was his only and last chance to pass through the ice field. Once he missed it, the entire chilly winter forest would never be able to leave the ice field again. Remember, if the Spirit King refuses to lead the way, then there is no way to avoid it. You must not force your way in. Chong Ying's warning flashed through his mind, and Marquis Xian Ping's eyes darkened. Qing was still waiting for him to retrieve the purple grass. Even if he had to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of flames, even if he had to go through the underworld, he still had to charge through. His gaze landed on the direwolf, and after a moment, he pulled out his long blade. "Go back, direwolf, your mission is complete. I will walk the rest of the way by myself." He raised his blade and cut off all the reins on the direwolves. There was no need to carry any weight, and the wolves immediately ran far away. The Spirit King stopped in time, and turned around to look at Marquis Xian Ping. The blizzard was coming, and this human would die. He felt the human's kindness, but he had to bring his wolves back alive. Marquis Xian Ping grabbed the basket on the snow cart, and resolutely charged into the coming blizzard. Marquis Xian Ping didn't remember how many days he had walked in the blizzard. His face had long lost feeling, and he couldn't even close his mouth. His hands and feet were numb from the cold, and his body was extremely stiff. He was like a walking corpse, moving forward step by step. His legs went soft, and he staggered and fell, kneeling on one knee on the ground. His long saber stabbed into the hard layer of ice to support his body that was on the verge of collapsing. He couldn't fall here. Qing was still waiting for him. He had to go back. His palm was frozen and cracked, and under the ice layer, it left a shocking bloody handprint. His body temperature continued to drop, and he couldn't find a place to shelter himself from the wind and rain. He seemed to be lost, and he didn't even know how long it would take for him to reach the end. Finally, his strength couldn't support him, and he fell head first onto the cold and hard ice. When he woke up, the blood flowing down from his forehead had already dried. He moved his body that was almost petrified, and climbed up with great difficulty. He picked up the long blade on the ice, and using the blade as a crutch, he continued to walk towards his destination. His strength was gradually exhausted, and when a glacier collapsed in front of him, he didn't have the strength to escape. His first reaction was not to save himself, but to throw out the basket on his back. With a loud boom, his entire body was pressed under the glacier. The basket was broken, and the things inside tumbled out. The leather covering the small box was also cut open by the sharp ice. A gust of wind blew. Marquis Xian Ping's expression changed, and his hoarse voice almost couldn't make a sound. Don't, plop. The leather was blown open by the wind, and the small box fell into the hole in the ice. The small box floated away with the water under the ice. Marquis Xian Ping's heart was filled with great sorrow. He raised his hand, and forcefully pushed away the glacier on his body. His dantian was damaged, and he couldn't use any internal energy. His fingers were bloody from clawing, but he couldn't move the glacier on his body at all. Don't go! Don't go! He looked at the small box floating away under the ice, and he was so anxious that the red veins in his eyes exploded one by one. What floated away under the ice was not a small box, but his son's life. Ah! He let out an angry and compassionate roar, and used the power of his life to push the glacier on his body. Bang! While he was pushing the glacier on his end, he also increased the pressure on the other end of the glacier. The ice on the lake cracked open. A series of small pieces of ice fell into the ice hole and flowed down, hitting the small box. The small box was pushed further and further away. If this continued, he would lose it. Marquis Xian Ping looked at the gray sky and felt a deep sense of despair. He wasn't afraid of death. He was only afraid that if he died, no one would be able to bring the purple grass back. Why did he have to do this to him? 20 years ago he wasn't able to save Qing. Could it be that this time he would also end up in failure? He turned his head to look for the small box under the ice, but suddenly caught a glimpse of a tall figure in the biting cold wind and snow. Was it an illusion? Here. How could there be someone? The other person walked towards him step by step. It was a man wrapped in thick fur, wearing a fox-skin cloak, and the hood of the cloak covered his appearance. There was a long sword at his waist that was emitting a threatening cold aura, which complemented his lonely and cold aura. Beside him was a dire wolf that looked like a spirit king. When he got closer, Marquis Xian Ping finally recognized him. Long Yi. Digression. Third watch. Love is cute. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428265172580. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 898. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. Xian Ping Ho completely did not expect to run into Long Yi here. Long Yi was wearing that mask which he had never taken off since entering the princess mansion. Maybe he had also changed it, merely it was the same every time. Strange. Didn't Long Yi follow A Heng to the northeast to negotiate with Chen Guo? When he left Ziyang City to look for medicine, Xiao Hang had not yet arrived at the northwest border. Naturally, he did not know that Long Yi had already separated from Xiao Hang. He subconsciously looked behind Long Yi. In the endless wind and snow, he did not see a second figure. This was even more strange. Long Yi had appeared here alone? In addition, the feeling Long Yi gave him seemed to be different. Xian Ping Ho's brain had already been frozen long ago. He could only think so much. Very quickly, he remembered the proper business. He opened his mouth with a hoarse voice which was difficult to distinguish, but he discovered that all his voice was drowned out by the whistling wind and snow. He was not sure if Long Yi had recognized him. After all, he had been wasted by the blizzard for many days. He was already in a difficult situation, and even he could not recognize himself. Long Yi stood on a piece of intact ice layer and did not immediately come over. The direwolf beside him also seemed to have the intention to stop Long Yi. It stood on the edge of the ice layer and used its nose to sniff the faintly discernible crack. I can't go over. I can't even take a single step. Bang! Xian Ping Ho also heard the cracking sound of the ice layer below him. This ice layer was about to be unable to bear the weight of the glacier. Before long, he and this glacier would sink into the ice-cold water. He had already lost all feeling below his waist. He raised his head and gasped for breath, recovering a bit of strength. He no longer struggled and tried to stabilize the ice layer below him. Long Yi. He finally had the strength to call out, "Why did you come? Are you alone?" Long Yi answered. This was the answer to his second question. He was nearby and heard the voice of Xian Ping Ho, so he came over to take a look. Xian Ping Ho weakly replied, and in a flash, his eyes trembled. Wait a minute, just now Long Yi spoke? He spoke. Marquis Xian Ping had seen Empress Dowager Zhuang and Gu Jiao. He had already learned some things about Long Yi from them and knew that he was actually not the shadow dragon guard left behind by the late emperor for Qin Fengwan. He had lost his memory. However, he thought of himself as the dragon shadow guard and became speechless. Long Yi's gaze fell on Marquis Xian Ping and that glacier, as if he was thinking about how to save Marquis Xian Ping. He took off the leather glove on his right hand, and his well-defined hand pressed on the sword at his waist. Marquis Xian Ping understood what he wanted to do. He wanted to split the glacier with his sword and use his Qin Gong to save him. With Long Yi's ability, he naturally could do it. However, the power of this attack was too great. It would cause the water to surge rapidly, and countless ice shards would rush into the water, washing away the small box completely. He didn't have time to go back and forth to the Dark Night Island. Long Yi, don't worry about me. Go and find that small box. Long Yi's gaze swept around. He saw a small box slowly floating under the layer of ice. The small box was surrounded by red paraffin wax, which was very eye-catching. If he wanted to catch the small box, he had to break the layer of ice, and the layer of ice in this area was already in danger. Once it was broken, Marquis Xian Ping would be pressed into the water by the glacier, and even Long Yi wouldn't be able to pick him up. There was no hesitation or fear in the eyes of Marquis Xian Ping. He smiled and said, "Give the small box to Jiao Jiao. She knows what to do." He was not Long Yi's master, nor was he Long Yi's partner. Long Yi could refuse to listen to him. Long Yi. He looked at Long Yi. As proud as he was, he had never begged anyone in his life. However, his tone was definitely not commanding. He suddenly laughed at himself. In any case, your master doesn't like me, so it doesn't matter whether I die or not. Inside the box is the medicine for her son, and her son is gone. Your master should be sad. In November, Ziyang City was covered in pure white snow. Several days had passed since Xiao Hang and Shang Guanqing set out. It's the middle of the month. Gu Jiao said. Marquis Xian Ping set out early in the morning of October 16th. It had been almost a month, and she didn't know whether he had obtained the purple grass or not. Although Shang Guanqing gave up waiting for the antidote, she didn't give up on this side. She was calculating the final deadline in her heart. She looked at the map in her hand and sighed, "If I can't get the antidote tonight, then I really won't be able to catch up." Tonight, Marquis Xian Ping didn't return. In the morning, Gu Jiao woke up early as usual. She planned to feed Black Wind King, then go to the wounded barracks to check the wards. Just when she got out of bed, her right leg kicked something. She looked down and saw that it was a small box covered in red wax. There was a layer of thin ice on the wax. Who put it here? I clearly didn't see this box last night. Did someone come in at night? A series of question marks flashed through the mind of Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao picked up the small box, and surprisingly, she saw a familiar charcoal pencil. Long Yi. It was Long Yi. He was the one who put the box here. Gu Jiao carried the small box out of the tent and bumped into Teacher who had come to bring her hot water. I-oh. Teacher who hurriedly retreated, but unfortunately, he couldn't. Seeing that they were about to bump into each other, Gu Jiao nimbly moved to the side. Teacher who staggered a few steps, but in any case, he steadied his body. He looked back at Gu Jiao, who had suddenly rushed out of the tent, and asked with lingering fear, "My lady, do you have something urgent? Did you see a person? This place is full of people. This tall." Gu Jiao gestured, wearing a mask and a long sword at his waist. Teacher who shook his head, "No, are you talking about an assassin? He had a mask and a sword, and he was so tall and big. Just thinking about it made people feel afraid." "Forget it, he didn't even wake me up. Presumably he didn't want to alarm anyone." Gu Jiao lowered her eyes, and returned to the tent with the small box. Teacher who scratched his head, "Why do I feel that my lady's mood is a little low?" Gu Jiao sat down beside the small table, and placed the small box and the charcoal pencil on the carpet on the table. Only then did she notice that there was a piece of paper sealed in a layer of ice at the top of the small box. She broke the layer of ice, carefully took out the paper, and slowly spread it on the table. It was a picture drawn with a charcoal pencil. From the moment Xiao Hang decided to help Long Yi recall his memories, he began to teach Long Yi how to speak and read. However, according to Xiao Hang, Long Yi preferred to draw. In the picture was a man who was pressed under a glacier in a snowstorm. The layer of ice under the man's body cracked, and a small red box floated under the layer of ice in the distance. Near the origin ice was an endless mountain range. That was Great Yan's Biling Pass. Seeing this, Gu Jiao understood everything. The man who was pressed under the glacier was Marquis Xian Ping. He walked through the harsh origin ice, and when he was about to reach the border of Yan country, he encountered the glacier breaking. Perhaps he himself didn't know that he had already reached the border. He was only 1 li away from the shore. He was the first person to cross the origin ice in the extreme winter weather, and he created an unimaginable miracle. Unfortunately, he gave all the miracles to his son, and didn't leave himself a chance to live. Long Yi should have just happened to pass by there, and Marquis Xian Ping gave up his life. In the cold winter, he was pressed under the glacier, and even his corpse couldn't be salvaged. The small box on the table suddenly became very heavy. If Aheng heard this news, would she be very sad? Last time, it was a landslide, and this time, it was a glacier. Why did she dream of it last time, but not this time? Gu Jiao couldn't figure it out, but no matter what, she couldn't wallow in the emotions brought about by this matter. This was something that Marquis Xian Ping brought back with his life. She couldn't let Marquis Xian Ping sacrifice his life in vain. Gu Jiao peeled off the wax on the outside and opened the small box. She found that aside from whole stalks of purple grass, there was also a box of purple flowers and a box of white fruits. Each fruit was about the size of a marble. There was a letter in the top layer of the box. It was a letter personally written by Marquis Xian Ping. On it, he recorded the information he had learned about the purple grass from Dark Night Island. Purple grass roots were very poisonous, and purple grass flowers were also poisonous, but the toxicity was not as good as the roots. Purple grass fruits could cure the poison of purple grass. But whether or not purple grass fruits had any effect on other poisons, it was unknown. In addition, purple grass fruits were completely non-toxic and had no side effects, unlike purple grass, which was very dangerous. Gu Jiao said, "If it can cure Shangguan Qing's poison, that would be the best. If it can't, he will still need to take purple grass." She couldn't let go of any opportunity. Gu Jiao hurried to the alchemy room, grabbed a handful of purple grass, and extracted the poison from its roots. Then she boiled it into pills in the stove. She sealed the pills and called Wenren Chong, "I'm going out." Wenren Chong smelled the faint medicinal fragrance on her body and almost understood what was going on. "Are you going to chase His Highness Zhongsun? I'm afraid you won't be able to catch up with him. This morning, the people of the Enying Division sent a pigeon to us. The waterway that His Highness Zhongsun took froze last night." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www zhhbqg com/89642_896422826/1051566962. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 899. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. This ice is not as thick as the ice on the ice field. It can be passed from above. Gu Jiao frowned. Then we can only go by land. But can we make it in time? Whatever, we have to go whether we can make it in time or not. She paused and said, "Ask someone from the Shadow Division to come here." "Yes." Wanren Chong answered. Most of the members of the Shadow Division went to the Jin Kingdom with Liaochen, so there were not many people left in the camp. The Shadow Guard called by Wanren Chong was Tsenyang. He was specially arranged by Liaochen in the camp so that Gu Jiao could contact him. Tsenyang bowed to Gu Jiao. "Young Commander." Everyone in the camp called her Young Commander. At first, she didn't understand and thought it was a problem with the accent. Later, when she found out, it was too late to change it. So she just let them be. Gu Jiao asked, "The Shadow Division has been in the Zhao Kingdom. Are there any hidden sentries along the way?" "Yes, there are people from the Shadow Division near every post station." "Young Commander, do you want to find out something?" "I want to send something to the capital of the Zhao Kingdom as soon as possible." "The capital of the Zhao Kingdom?" Tsenyang came to the table and looked at the map on the table. He pointed and said, "The fastest way is to go by water from the port of the Tong continent. Unfortunately, the bay of the Tong continent froze last night. We can only go by Yunzhou. The bay of Yunzhou hasn't frozen yet, but judging by the weather, it will freeze soon." Gu Jiao murmured, "You mean we have to get on the ship before the bay of Yunzhou freezes?" Tsenyang nodded. "Yes. The water near the port is shallow and slow, so it's easy to freeze. It's not so fast in the center of the river." Gu Jiao said seriously, "I know. I'll go to Yunzhou now." It was 300 miles from here to Yunzhou. In such bad weather, it would be more difficult to travel. She had to choose the most suitable horse. The Black Wind King seemed to have sensed something and came to the entrance of the tent without hesitation. However, she could not ride the Black Wind King anymore. Ever since the Black Wind King came to the border, it had been through many battles, big and little sure. Especially in the battle to take down the south gate of Pu City, it was severely injured. After that, it did not immediately rest. Instead, it fought alongside her for a long time. She could not risk it again. Gu Jiao went to the stable. The Black Wind Cavalry was the earliest and most elite force in the Shenyuan army. However, before the reinforcements arrived, this force had fought too many battles and was covered in wounds. A warhorse in its prime needed rest. But the moment Gu Jiao walked in, all the warhorses immediately went into battle mode. They could still fight. Gu Jiao clenched her fists. "Young Commander." Wanren Chong brought over a 10-year-old warhorse. "Let's choose this one. It only fought in a battle and suffered some minor injuries. But it has already recovered." Gu Jiao asked, "Are there any horses that have not been injured?" Wanren Chong said, "Yes, they have all gone to the front line. Otherwise, there are the young Black Wind Cavalry who are transporting the provisions." At this moment, a 3-year-old Black Wind Cavalry galloped over. It jumped in front of Gu Jiao a few times, as if it was showing off its strength to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao recognized it. It was the Black Wind Cavalry that fell into the waterfall when crossing the mountain range. The Black Wind King saved it in time, but the provisions on its back were gone. It was depressed until Gu Jiao put the herbs she picked on its back. It seems to have grown a lot in just 2 months. Gu Jiao checked its body and found that it was very strong. Although it was only 3 years old, its muscles were full of explosive strength. Little Black Wind Cavalry, it's up to you whether we can send the antidote to the ship before the ice freezes. The 300 miles to Yunzhou, the Black Wind Cavalry ran as fast as it could. The winter was very cold. It was snowing everywhere. The road was dangerous and difficult. The Black Wind Cavalry almost split several times. Its hair was standing on end, but it was not afraid. It did not flinch. It did not even slow down. Facing the whistling cold wind, it galloped on the endless official road as if it was about to fly. In terms of quality, it was not the best. The best quality horses that Gu Jiao had seen so far were the Black Wind King and Little Shi. However, this Black Wind Cavalry had an unyielding will and an unyielding fighting spirit. Along the way, both of them fell. Without saying anything, the Black Wind Cavalry got up and continued. It carried Gu Jiao and continued to gallop. In the wind and snow, it was its king. Even if the Black Wind King was not injured, it would still be a bit difficult to run for 300 miles in the wind and snow. The Black Wind Cavalry's physical strength was gradually exhausted. Gu Jiao's hands were already frozen stiff. Her cheeks and lips were numb. She could not even speak clearly. Little Black Wind Cavalry, hold on a little longer. We're almost at Yunzhou. The Black Wind Cavalry panted and gritted its teeth. It stood up and ran to the gate tower of Yunzhou like an arrow. On the 10th day of the 12th lunar month, it snowed all night in the capital of Zhao country. When Eugene got up before dawn, she almost could not open the door. Why is the snow so heavy? It's blocking the door. Someone, she called. A servant came over with a shovel. She shoveled the ice and snow in front of her door and opened the door for her. I was just about to shovel the snow. I didn't expect you to get up so early. Eugene did not mean to blame her. It was true that she got up early. She looked at the direction of the south and asked softly, "Is the young master up?" The servant said, "I don't think so. I didn't hear anything." Eugene nodded. "I know. Go do your thing." "Okay." The servant went to sweep the snow in the yard. Her movements were very light and did not disturb anyone. In the south room, Shangguan Qing woke up early. Last night, the mother and son talked until late into the night. After midnight, Princess Xinyang could not resist the sleepiness of pregnancy and fell asleep. Shangguan Qing did not take the antidote from the state preceptor hall. Suffering from the poison in his body, he could not close his eyes for even a moment. Of course, he did not want to close his eyes. He quietly looked at Princess Xinyang beside him. This was his mother, the woman who had brought him to this world after being pregnant for 10 months and walking through the gates of hell. She was very gentle. Although she might be very strict, he did not have the chance to feel it, did he? It was almost dawn. His increasingly uncomfortable body reminded him that he had to leave here as soon as possible. It's faster than I thought. On the way here, he thought there were 3 more days. At dinner, he faintly felt that there was only 1 day left. But now, he covered his heart. It was going to explode. He could not breathe. "Brother." Xiao Heng's low voice came from outside the door. Shangguan Qing wanted to answer him, but he was afraid to wake Princess Xinyang. "I'm coming in," Xiao Heng said. The door was pushed open and Xiao Heng walked in. He saw Shangguan Qing sitting at the head of the bed in a cold sweat. His face was unbelievably pale, his lips were black, and his whole body was trembling. Xiao Heng's eyes darkened. He strode forward and hugged Shangguan Qing, who was falling from the head of the bed. Shangguan Qing lay in his arms and said weakly, "Take me away." Xiao Heng held him and looked at Princess Xinyang, who was lying on the bed with her eyes open and biting her fingers to prevent herself from crying out loud. His throat moved with difficulty. "Okay, I'll take you away." Xiao Heng helped Shangguan Qing up and put his hand on his neck. He walked step by step toward the door. The moment he crossed the threshold, Shangguan Qing's body went soft and he slid down. Xiao Heng hurriedly hugged him. "Brother." Qing all of Princess Xinyang's strength was shattered by this fall. She could no longer agree to his request. She didn't want him to die outside. She didn't want him to become a cold corpse in a deserted place. She rushed over and knelt on the ground to hug Shangguan Qing, who was lifeless like a puppet. Qing, don't go. Don't leave, mother. Don't. Hot tears splashed on his cheeks and fell into his eyes. A tear slid down from his eye. Mother, I'm sorry. I can't be your son anymore. I don't regret being born by you. Thank you for bringing me into this world. The human world is so good. I like it very much. Princess Xinyang hugged her son tightly. She felt that she was losing him. Her heart was broken, and her tears fell uncontrollably. Qing, Xiaohang turned around. His eyes were red and swollen. Yujin stood outside the door. She covered her mouth tightly, but she couldn't hold back the tears in her eyes. Why? Why was God so cruel? The princess had only been reunited with the young master for a day, but she lost him again. How many times did the princess have to go through the pain of losing her son? Yujin cried sorrowfully. The servants in the courtyard all turned their faces away to secretly wipe their tears. There was nothing crueler in the world than this. Clang. The door of the courtyard was kicked open. Because the force was too great, the whole door fell on the bonsai planted by Princess Xinyang. Just as the servants were about to shout, the travel-worn man walked in. Your Highness Zhang's son. And me, taunts, orders, Xiao, little commander, medicine, to deliver my life. All the servants were stunned. What was this? The Shadow Division expert cleared his throat. Wrong. I'm here to deliver you the medicine under the orders of Commander Xiao. I was anxious and spoke carelessly. Give it to me quickly. Xiaoheng understood. He couldn't wait for the other party to deliver the medicine and walked over himself. The Shadow Division expert had seen his portrait and handed the medicine to him. There were a total of 2 bottles of medicine and a note. The note said, feed him the white fruit in the white jade bottle first. If he doesn't get better, feed him the brown pill in the jade bottle. The fruit is purple grass fruit, non-toxic. The brown pill comes from the roots of purple grass, highly toxic. It was Gu Jiao's note. Xiaoheng didn't have any doubts or hesitation. He rushed into the room, pried open his brother's mouth, and fed him the white fruit. Xiaoheng looked serious. He can't eat it. Let me do it. The Shadow Division expert rushed over and slapped Shangguan Qing's chest. The fruit slid smoothly into his stomach. Princess Xinyang looked at the Shadow Division expert in surprise and then turned to Xiaoheng. She asked in a daze, "What did you feed your brother?" Xiaoheng replied, "Jiao Jiao sent someone to deliver medicine. It couldn't be called an antidote because it might not work. If it didn't work, then Shangguan Qing would still have to take the purple grass poison. What 9 deaths? It should be 10,000 deaths. And who knew what side effects would happen to those who survived? Shangguan Qing, you must get better. When you're well, I'll call you brother as many times as I want." The person in Princess Xinyang's arms didn't respond. Xiaoheng picked up the jade bottle with trembling hands. Next, he could only try the purple grass poison. Hey. Knock, look. The Shadow Division expert pointed at Shangguan Qing's finger. He moved. Both mother and son looked at his fingertip. Although it was very weak, he did move. The Shadow Division expert stared at his face and said, "His glabella isn't as black as it used to be." Princess Xinyang looked at Xiaoheng with tears in her eyes. She sobbed and said, "I don't understand what he said." Xiaoheng smiled for the first time in a month, as if relieved of a burden. "He said that brother's glabella isn't black anymore. This is a sign that the poison in his body is gradually getting better. The purple grass fruit worked. He doesn't have to take the purple grass poison anymore." His emotions were tumbling in his chest. They were even more stormy than when Shangguan Qing was dying. It was endless suppressed sadness, like an iceberg that couldn't be melted under the sun. At this moment, the iceberg cracked, and joy spurted out from the ground like lava. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were burning. It's really... He fell on the ground and raised his hand to wipe his red eyes, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The glabella stopped moving after it had faded to a certain extent. What's going on? Princess Xinyong's eyes were red, like a frightened child. And why hasn't Qing woken up yet? Not so fast. The Shadow Division expert said, the poison is too deep. It needs to be removed slowly. Do you have many fruits? Xiaoheng looked at the big bottle full of fruits. Yes. The Shadow Division expert said, that's enough. If I feed him this every day, Zong will wake up. Xiaoheng carried Shangguan Qing back to the bed. If he doesn't wake up, I'll need more purple grass poison, he thought. An hour later, Shangguan Qing's breathing was smoother than before. His face was still pale, but his brows, which had been tightly knitted because of the pain, had relaxed a lot. This meant that his discomfort had been greatly alleviated. Xiaoheng guessed that he was still unconscious, not because the poison in his body hadn't been removed, but because he had been tortured by the poison for too long and hadn't been able to sleep well. Now that he wasn't feeling so bad anymore, he fell asleep peacefully. Xiaoheng said to Princess Xinyong, who was sitting by the bed with difficulty, Mother, don't worry. This fruit is very effective. Brother will definitely recover. Yes. Princess Xinyong nodded with tears in her eyes. She could feel that Qing was returning to her side. The joy of regaining what she had lost was indescribable. She had already lost Qing once. If she lost him a second time, she knew that she wouldn't be able to live. Her throat was hoarse from crying, and her eyes were swollen. She was in a terrible state. It was inevitable that she would be rude to receive a guest like this. She said to Xiaoheng, go thank that expert on behalf of Mother. Just now, Mother only cared about being sad and neglected his injuries. His face seems to have been disfigured. In a while, the imperial physician will come and take a look at him. Okay. His mother was really meticulous. She was so sad, but her observation skills weren't affected. She just couldn't react at that time. When she calmed down, she could sense that something was wrong. This was a very rare and valuable ability. The master of the Shadow Division was waiting in the corridor. He had to go back to report in a while and needed to know Shangguan Qing's specific condition. Xiaoheng went out of the room and saluted him. Thank you very much for today. I haven't asked your name yet. The master of the Shadow Division scratched his head. I'm sorry for breaking your door. Xiaoheng smiled. It's okay. You're injured. Go to the flower hall first. The imperial physician will be here soon. Yujin had already gone to invite the imperial physician. First, to check on Shangguan Qing's recovery. Second, to check on the guest's injuries. The master of the Shadow Division waved his hand. I'm fine. My name is Gao Chong. Gao Chong as in martial arts. Your Highness, about the patient's condition. I have to report back. Gu Jiao didn't say who he was delivering the medicine to. The people of the Shadow Division were only responsible for carrying out the task and wouldn't ask about it. He said seriously, you called him brother. I didn't hear it. Xiaoheng smiled. It didn't matter if he heard it. After going through so many things, he suddenly felt that it didn't matter whether he hid the identity of the two brothers or not. He said, why don't you wait for the imperial physician to come first? After hearing his specific diagnosis, you can go back to report. Gao Chong thought about it seriously and nodded. Yes. Xiaoheng looked out of the courtyard and asked, by the way, didn't my father come back with you? You have a father? Gao Chong thought that the eldest grandson of the Yen dynasty had a father. He hadn't heard of it for so many years. He answered, not at all. I came here alone. Before me, there was also a person who brought you here. I didn't see you, father. Strange, the antidote is such an important thing. Why would he ask someone else to do it? The more Xiaoheng thought about it, the stranger he felt. It wasn't that the people of the Shadow Division were unreliable, but this didn't conform to his father's temperament. Inside the room, Princess Xinyang was wiping the sweat on Shangguan Qing's forehead with a handkerchief. When she heard this, her movements paused. Gao Chong suddenly slapped himself on the forehead. "Ah, I remember. Thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I would have forgotten. There was also a letter that came with you." He took out a letter from his bosom and handed it to Xiao Hang. Xiao Hang originally thought that it was a letter from Gu Jiao, but when he opened it, he found that it was Long Yi's handwriting. Long Yi used a charcoal pen to draw a glacier. Under the glacier was a man whose hands were full of blood and whose bones were visible. Xiao Heng's heart was suddenly grasped by a big hand. What happened? Princess Xinyang walked out. Xiao Heng stealthily hid the drawing behind his back. Looking at his haggard mother who was about to give birth, he clenched his fists and endured. Nothing. Princess Xinyang looked at Gao Chong. Gao Chong didn't understand and honestly said, "Oh, it's the person who went to Origin Ice to look for you, medicine. He died and can't come back." Princess Xinyang's expression stiffened. Digression, Marquis Xianping biting a cigarette. "Cry for me, and I will come back to see you." Xinyang. Slap Fury JPG. JPG. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428826/1051555979. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.